That's the weird thing too, is all because I don't have the largest following, but I see a lot of people that'll pop up and I'll see like I have some music producer in Hollywood or some casting director. I have a guy followed me recently and he sent me a message. And he streams video games all day. And I sit here, I'm like, damn, I haven't played video games in like 5 years. But like, I don't know, I was addicted to Fortnite when it first came out. Like original, really? Like, oh, dude, the first year of Fortnite, like every dude I know was addicted to that game. Yeah. But it's like your audience reaches all different, because it's the same thing as like, you wouldn't think of like a guy that streams on Twitch all day that has a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Absolutely, dude. The streamers are making so much money.
But it's like,
now.
You don't even think about it. You're like, oh, I guess that guy might go to the gym too. I guess that guy might go do this. Yeah. Or it's like, I'll get random dudes. You could be anywhere. I'm like, oh shit, I've seen that guy. He posts really funny content and he's DMing me. He's like, hey, I have a lot of joint inflammation pain anytime I try to go for a jog. My knees hurt. Yeah. What can I do? Yeah. I sit here and I'm like, dude, that's kind of weird how everything, but you see it on your own page too. You'll see random stuff pop up on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. Like I guess like a universally loved person is the Outdoor Boys guy. Oh, I don't know. The guy who does camp. You ever seen that guy? This guy, his name is, I think it's Luke. I just like watching it. Yeah. He just like this, I don't know, probably like 45-year-old white guy. He'll just go out to like Alaska, middle winter. He'll be like, I'm gonna go camping, teach you how to survive in like negative 30-degree weather. He'll be like, we're not gonna bring a sleeping bag. We're not gonna do this or that. He'll just go out there for a day or two and film it. The guy's got like 12 million subscribers on Instagram. Wow. But you think about like the reach of it, and it's like, dude, his followers are in all different realms, all different aspects of life. And so I think one thing is like a lot of people just don't assume that like their audience is wider than they want it to be.
Well, what's your strategy for social media?
I just post random shit. Anything I find interesting, or I'll just do random stuff. Like I know Instagram, I think it was last couple days, they came out with this new feature where it's like if you're posting a reel, you can like not show it to your typical audience or like your followers first. It'll test it out with different kinds of like people who don't follow you to push it into like a different kind of algorithm. And if it starts doing well, it'll push it to your feed. I kind of just post random stuff, anything that I want to do. Like I'll post random slideshows of photos. I'll do workouts. I'll do voiceovers. I'll do, honestly, sometimes I talk about sports too, or just random stuff I see. Most of it obviously is bodybuilding or fitness, hormone related. That's what most of it tends to be. But I don't know if I like something. Like we just moved into a house, and so I was like, all right, here's a house tour. Here's my dog.
I saw your Bluetooth oven stove.
Yeah, I don't know how to work it.
What does it do? Does it play music while you cook food?
I think you can just control it through an app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because my friend and I, we're renting a house right now. Yeah. Because it worked out perfectly because I was in Houston for about 2 years. And I got so bored at Houston. It just like, for bodybuilding wise, it's great. You can lock in, but it's like, dude, everything is so far away. It's like there's other gyms I like going to, but it's like, if I want to go up to this gym, it's an hour away. And I'm like, everything in Austin is 15 minutes away. Yeah. Which is kind of, I like it. Cause like I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. And then I lived in Cincinnati for a while. And anybody who's been around Ohio, Austin has like the exact same layout as Cincinnati, Ohio. Even the way that like the city sits on the water. There's like two main highways that go north and south. The river splits it. It's like the exact same layout, but it has the same exact vibe as like Columbus, Ohio. So I think Austin is like 13th largest and Columbus is like 15th largest. And vibe of the city, where like Columbus has Ohio State, probably second largest university. I think Texas is number 1 or number 3.
I've never heard anybody compare Austin and Ohio together.
It's just like the exact layout of the city. If you meet people who are from Ohio, because there's a lot more in Austin, I think you would think there are. If you meet them and you're just like, hey, have you ever been to Cincinnati? And they'll be like, they'll probably be like, yeah, Austin kind of has the same exact city layout as Cincinnati. Like a lot of people will be very surprised about that.
So what made you want to move to Austin from Houston?
So I originally came up here because it was during the hurricane, and Houston. It was over summer. It was like right after 4th of July, and like thankfully, like I was in Sugar Land area, just like one of the older money suburbs of Houston. It's just like on the outskirts of the city, and I was like, well, shit, everything's gonna be closed for a week. Like I didn't lose power in my apartment, but I'm like, I don't want to just sit here for a week not doing anything. And my friend Patty, he lives here, is his girlfriend, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to come crash with you for a week. So he's trying to get me to come visit. And I did it. And I was like, I like how everything here is like, you can just do stuff outside. Because for me, I don't drink, I don't party, I don't go to clubs, I don't do that. I don't go to restaurants like super, super often. And if you're in Houston and you like that kind of stuff, you want to go to new restaurants, you want to go do all that stuff, Houston's the place to be. Like some of the best restaurants you'll ever go to in your life. Like Texas food in general, they just have every option of everything. Like Texas is the most all-you-can-eat sushi place that I've ever seen in my entire life. And like, I'm a bodybuilder, so I love sushi. I think everybody loves all-you-can-eat sushi. And came up and visited. It was obviously perfect time too, being like middle of July, like sunny every day, and like we'd just be outside more. And I was like, okay, this probably be a better place to be, just because it's just more stuff for me to do outside of the bodybuilding stuff. Because I think a lot of people, like, they perceive it as like me and a lot of other people, it's like, oh, we just go to the gym. And they view it how they view going to the gym. Where it's like, for me and a lot of our people, it's like, hey, this is not just like a way to decompress, or it's like kind of our job in a sense. It's like
you're going to work, you're focused.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's times where like, you know, if I'm about done my workout, it's like no problem, like chit chatting or doing whatever. Like if I work out with friends, like you know, I'm not someone, I don't wear headphones too often in the gym. Unless I'm just by myself, bored out of my mind, then yeah. Like if I'm working out with someone, I just don't really like wearing headphones too often. But it's just like, it's kind of just work. That's how I view it. Because it's like, okay, well, my livelihood is based on me signing, you know, clients for coaching or sponsors or doing stuff. It's like a little bit on, you know, it's not a little bit, it's a lot of it on how I look, how I present myself, obviously, you know, bodybuilding, just overall in general. So it's like, it's obviously a part, you know, but it's obviously the food, the diet, you know, just hormones, every other aspect of stuff. But it's not the typical, just like, oh, I go to the gym to get in shape, I go to do this. And I'm like,
yeah, you need other stuff to take your mind off of it too.
There's more to do than just go to the gym for 2 to 3 hours a day and then eat the rest of the day. I want more to do.
That would be a good life though.
Oh yeah.
Just gym and eat.
Yeah.
Not bad.
And
play some Fortnite.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, I haven't played video games in years. I don't know. I just have better stuff to do now. I don't shit on people that do though, because I know a lot of dudes who just do it a little bit to decompress. If you do it for an hour a day or so, whatever, like go for it. Just don't sit around 8 hours a day doing that.
Yeah, moderation and everything.
I mean, if that's your job, then.
If you're a streamer, you should play video games for 8 hours a day.
I recently bought a video game system. Hadn't played video games in 20 years. And I couldn't decompress. That's what I was running into. I just couldn't. We have all kinds of different businesses going on. I just couldn't unplug.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And luckily, I can tell after being away for so long, I don't have an addictive personality towards video games.
Yeah.
I have an addictive personality towards a lot of things like caffeine. But this, for some reason, I can like play a little bit. I'm okay. I don't find myself staying up till like 3 a.m. Where I have some buddies that there's like, they like, my one buddy, he was like up till 2 a.m. and he just forgets time. Where me, it's kind of like as I get a little tired mentally, I'm like, all right, unplug from it. But that's 20 years not playing video games.
I think it's also just like you think you just have other stuff going on too. So like your mindset of it is like you have other stuff. Like I remember when I was in college, like I lived in a house with like 6 dudes and all of us met because we were in the same fraternity. And a lot of them would just play video games and nothing else going on too. And like you're in college, like you sit around, smoke weed, play video games, and like
it's like they're only dopamine.
Exactly. And so for me, it's like I look at like all the other aspects of dopamine, and it's like for you, if you're busy 24/7 with work or other business aspects, then you're just like, that's not your dopamine.
Yeah.
It's like a way of like, I kind of just want to play like FIFA or, you know, something for a little bit.
I was talking to Tony. It's like going fishing. It's like me just sitting at the river, throwing my pole into the lake and just being like, okay, just let my mind unwind a little bit.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of people I think view it. I think that's how a lot of people view the gym too. So a lot of people will talk, for example, and just you see, I mean, you guys definitely see it on social media too. Everyone's like, oh, you don't need to go to the gym more than 2 to 3 days a week for like 45 minutes at a time. And I think a lot of people, especially in my space, don't seem to understand that the average dude doesn't want to look like a bodybuilder. They kind of just want to, look pretty good. They go to the beach or
totally different priorities. If you just want to stay healthy,
Yeah.
2 to 3 days a week, 45 minutes will do the trick. But
you could do
trying to get big, you need to spend that time.
Yeah. And it is. And I think that's the difference is there's a lot of people within the fitness space. It can become very off-putting because it's almost like I guess like lack of nuance or the lack of self-reflection of like, you know, for example, a lot of people will be like, damn, I can't believe people just like don't care about their health, or they just like, they make excuses. They just like don't want to eat right or do this. And I'm like, dude, let's just say you're, you know, a dude that lives in West Virginia, you're a coal miner, you work 80 hours a week, you come home, you know, you provide enough so your wife can stay at home, raise kids, do whatever. Guy gets home, he kind of just wants to drink a beer or two and watch football. He's not really thinking about that. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going to shit on that, dude.
No.
And also the thing is, I'm in the crazy fringe minority of people who want to be doing this.
Right.
I'm the weird one here. I'm not the normal person that, you know, goes to the gym maybe 2, 3, 4 days a week and then spends the weekend going to bars and clubs with friends or going to do all that kind of stuff. It's like, I'm the minority here.
Yeah. For most people, it's just go to the gym for a baseline of health.
Exactly.
Whereas the fringe, like yourself, professional bodybuilders, this is like Brent said, it's fucking work.
Yeah.
What's the business of bodybuilding like? I know you have different income streams, like clients, and sponsorships.
So it's actually kind of, it's very weird because a lot of people just assume there's be a lot of people you'll meet that, let's say the older crowd of bodybuilding, a lot of guys that are maybe in their late 20s, because I'm 26. They'll be 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and they were professional bodybuilders. And social media kind of really changed the game as far as how everything is working. Because back in the days, it was like you did coaching, you did, you know, most of them worked other jobs too. It was really just the top guys in the bodybuilding space, like the top level, like the Olympian level guys who are making a career out of it. And more people have been making money the last 10 years or so. It's really probably been since like 2016, 2017, where social media has just grown and grown and grown. More people are on Instagram, or especially TikTok has helped grow a lot of it since 2020. And so you used to have a lot of these, you still do have a lot of these guys that are a bit older that are kind of, I would say, bitter, because they'll see a lot of these younger kids who are not competing. They're like, these guys are not bodybuilders. You'll see, you know, just a guy, let's say, because I'm 5'9", like 240. You'll see all these guys who are, you know, let's say 5'9", 170 pounds, just shredded. Most people would rather look like that guy than they look like me. And a lot of these older guys are bitter because they'll see that and they'll be like, why does that guy get sponsorships? Everybody views it as like easy mode. Guy can make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 a month just because he looks good. And all these older guys will think, well, shit, I'm a pro. Why didn't I have this option available to me? And so I just want to give all the backstory to everything. And so it goes more into today where there's a lot of guys who are still pro, maybe have 3,000 followers on social media, who don't take the social media aspect seriously. And it kind of goes to like what we were talking about before, you know, we started recording, where there are a lot of people who are boring, who don't know how to just convey themselves in a way that a lot of people, I guess, would resonate with a lot of people. And most people are boring, if we put it like that. They're not able to kind of be themselves in a way. They're very insecure to kind of put themselves out there like that. And so when you take all this and you take all of these people, all these factors, there's more opportunities than ever. But a lot of these older people are just, you know, so you got the old heads who didn't have social media available, who shit on younger guys. For example, you see it all the time. Older guys are shitting on young guys in the gym for filming themselves. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, that guy is putting content out. He's doing whatever. He's making money. A lot of these guys are bitter because they didn't have that opportunity, which I get. But you see a lot of these older guys now who are starting to do it, and they're seeing, okay, well, this is advantageous to me. I can make money doing this. Because there's a crowd of old heads who want to watch the old head. And so you get the sponsors, you can get the coaching route, you can go all these different aspects. A lot of people still have other businesses that they like to do outside of this stuff, which for me at some point, like there's stuff that I will venture into, which I have interest in. A lot of my friends do have other side projects because they're like, all right, well, if social media gets deleted or if your account gets banned, it'll just make a new one. If you have enough of, you know, people that like you, you'll be able to build one back up. And a lot of people just assume that they can't do that. So they want to kind of diversify everything they're doing. So most people I know will do coaching, sponsorships, and then less people will do other outlets of stuff. But there's also people I know that have full-time jobs too, or other side jobs of stuff that they like to do. I know a guy, he has probably 150,000 followers on TikTok. He owns a business. He lives in Florida. He cleans trash cans. He owns one of those little trucks that they go to your house and the like picks it up. It'll wash it and put it back down. He charges like $200 a month. I'll come do it twice a month or something. And he does that. But he also just makes content on TikTok too when he has downtime.
It's pretty interesting with social media nowadays, how many, like, people shit on the younger generation. You'll see that, like maybe these old heads. But I would say some of the most creative entrepreneurial people are younger. Like the amount of crazy businesses people are constantly coming up with. Yeah. There are, again, in each age bracket, there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, woe is me, I can't do anything. But there's so much opportunity.
Yeah, and
there's
I think
so much opportunity.
I think one thing people think is that there's like a finite amount of money within the fitness space, as if, let's say, for example, there's $1 billion. Obviously, there's infinite amount of money in the fitness space. But let's say everybody thinks that there's $1 billion, and everyone's like, shit, I just want a little piece of that. Where it's like, dude, you can. It's like what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. There's an overlap way far outside of the traditional fitness industry than people think there is. Because like the average dude probably goes to the gym. At least maybe has a membership.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not hardcore bodybuilders. Most of them probably.
They're probably not following a strict plan. They just show up, lift some.
They're just like, I want to go hit back to there. I want to go hit arms. I want to go do whatever. And it's like,
And even if they're not, they could still be following you because they're
somewhere.
Like, I just kind of want to hit my chest a little different, or they're just watching it for the pure joy of watching.
Exactly. And so I think it's kind of just all these younger kids. I say kid, I'm 26, but I know people who are 18, 19 to my age who are way older than me, and they're kind of just like, well, I don't see anybody doing this, so I might as well just try to do it. And that's why I see a lot of people doing copycat of other people, which I don't get upset if. When people, I guess kind of like remake content of other people, because like there's only so much creative content that people can do. This is the same thing. Ideas like people talk about like reinventing the wheel with everything, but a lot of it is just different business ideas. For example, like Kratom is a new one that a lot of people are really getting into as of recently, but it's like Kratom's not a new thing.
No, it's been in gas stations for fucking ever.
It's just the last year and a half or so because, there was a company, Uprising, who paid, I think it paid like $1.4 million out to their athletes last year or something nuts like that. But it's just somebody starts a company, you pay all your friends who are the top bodybuilders and,
Is Kratom getting big in the bodybuilding scene?
Yeah, but I think it always has been. I think, for example, a lot of these things, like, for example, a lot of people are shocked. There's a lot of bodybuilders that smoke weed. There's a lot of bodybuilders that smoke weed. I'll do it every now and then just to kind of, I won't do enough to like get high, but I'll just do a little bit to just kind of let my body relax.
Hey, if you're trying to hit your calorie goals, weed will help.
That's what I would do in college.
Weed will help.
But for me, it's like if I do a little bit now, it's kind of just let my body relax. Because like as you get bigger, it's like your body just gets tight. Or for example, like if you're on gear, it's like I try to explain to people, it's like, dude, your body can just get pumped. Like, let's say you do really hard leg day, you're doing a ton of RDLs or something, your deadlifts, and your lower back gets pumped. I'm like, dude, your lower back can be pumped for a couple days after. It's like depending on what you're doing, how much, like how hard you're hitting everything. And so I know a lot of guys, they'll do Kratom, they'll do weed. That's pretty much, I'm just going down list the name of drugs. I'm like, people aren't doing cocaine. They aren't doing anything like that.
Stuff to actually like let their nervous system relax or their mind kind of let go of thinking about training and stuff like that.
And a lot of people I know too, it kind of goes back to what you're talking about, how like, well, it's like there's a lot of people who play, sit around, smoke weed and play video games. I know a lot of people who smoke weed and they'll go to the gym after because it helps, I think, with some vasodilation for some people, and they just kind of like that feeling. A lot helps with some people. It can also
kind of help with like mind muscle connection.
Yeah. And so some people like doing that. I did that once in college. I greened out super hard. I was like, I think I just got too high, and I was like, I'm not doing this again.
I've definitely gone to the gym on an edible a couple times.
Yeah,
it can be pretty fun, especially if you get in the zone. You're just like really feeling everything. And you get a small dose. If you're too high, you're like starting to look around as everybody's staring.
If I'm too high, I'll just hang out on the foam roller for about an hour and a half. Just roll out.
That's it. There's just, I think, and a lot of people just want to kind of find different ways to like decompress. Because I think a lot of people love to shit on the bodybuilding perspective of like, you know, when, because like I'm very open about my gear use, more so to like help people in a sense, because a lot of people are, I think there's a problem within the health space in general where you have the people who are overly pro gear 100% about everything, where they're like, okay, take gear, do this or that, here's all the good things about everything, never mentions the downsides of anything. And then you have over here in the opposite end, which is kind of weird, is the fitness space. Most people assume everything is both extremes, but it's just those are the loudest. But you have a large overlap of people in the middle. And over here you have like the self-righteous snatty people.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm someone who's like in the middle, because I tell people all the time, I'm very open, but I talk a lot about negatives of stuff. I talk a lot about, hey, there's a lot of health mitigation stuff that you got to do, because I probably get, I don't know, 50 to 100 DMs a week like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do a cycle, I want to do this, like, what do you think? And I'll just ask people random questions like, all right, well, you know, what are you gonna do for health mitigation if you get this? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, you told me you did a lot of research. What do you do? Like, for example, like, what do you do if your blood pressure's too high? They'll be like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, just, you can Google that and find out.
Maybe
like,
figure that out first.
Yeah. Just people not knowing what they're doing. They just, what they do, what they mean by research is they'll see somebody talk about a cycle, for example, of what they're doing. And then that's their research.
That's what research is nowadays. I watched an Instagram clip.
Which is like, in a sense, it's like, that's really what a lot of it was like 5-10 years ago, where a lot of these guys, for example, like Derek More Plates, More Dates, all these different people, like, you know, very, as of more recently, Mike Israetel has become super popular. You have guys like Vigorous Steve, you got even old guys like Victor Black, you got Anabolic Doc, who's a very old school kind of one. He's the one that goes into the crazy 30-45 minute breakdowns of every compound you'll do. And then you have...
His videos make my mind go numb sometimes.
I like him though.
Yeah.
He's boring, but I just
like
him.
Exactly.
But then you got the self-righteous natty people. And here in Austin, I know a lot of people were the hybrid athletes, the runners. And I sit here and I'm like, dude, you guys would really benefit, because like they'll fucking tell me every day their knees are shot or their ankles are fucked. And I'm like, you guys doing anything for that? They're 22, 23 years old and they're like, no, dude, I fucking pain every day. I'm like, dude, I think you guys would benefit from BPC or something, at least trying something. And they're like, yeah, well, like, I don't want to lose my natty card. I'm like, dude, you don't compete in bodybuilding. You don't do natural bodybuilding. Yeah. Nobody gives a shit.
Also, what is, like, it's so it's so stupid. It's like anything in this world happening now is not natural anyways. Driving cars, you know, getting the medications we get for your cold, all the things that we do, like if you get diagnosed with lung cancer, none of the shit's natural. So like, you're only here also for a certain period of time. If you understand something very deeply, why wouldn't you use it, or could think about using it to enhance your life, or use it in a way to improve whatever your goals are in a smart way? And I also never understood why so many people are so anti, like, I don't know, you see those videos where like, no one should be talking about any of this stuff online. It's
yeah,
like,
and
I when I was 25, I'm 40 now, basically. People still were going on forums. That's where you had to find information.
People
dive.
Well, that's why a lot of people now will talk about, for example, like Reddit and stuff. I'm like, dude, Reddit is just a cesspool in general.
Yeah.
Don't go on there for anything. People will be like, well, yeah, it used to be the place to talk about gear, and I'm like, dude, it was a cesspool then. It's 10 times worse now. But like,
people aren't going to stop because you stop talking about it.
Exactly. It's just
more information is better, because
they're gonna search other ways to find it.
Yeah.
And like, to bring about your point, it's like we see it all the time, because it's all about in-group think, essentially. The overly righteous natty people are worried that the other overly righteous natty people are going to hate them because they do like BPC or something, and it's like, which no bodybuilder is going to look at you and be like, oh, you're not natural anymore. Like, none of us give a shit.
No, they're afraid of being cast out from their specific group.
That's why, like, for example, like Alex Eubank, he's someone who just started TRT from a clinic recently. It was like 3 months ago, and all these people are like, damn, dude, I used to look up to you as a natty influence. And I'm like, well, he's going through a doctor, he's doing all this stuff. Like, doing the right thing of encouraging it. Like I met Jeff Nippard last summer because he was in Houston for like a month. I think he was in Houston like 4 months out of the year. A lot of people don't know. I think it's for tax purposes, but you know, good for him. He's up in Canada. Like I don't blame him for that. As in Canada, you still can't get monetized for a lot of things. Like I don't think TikTok can pay you if you're up in Canada. But I told him a year ago, I was like, because Jeff's like 33. I was telling him, I was like, dude, if you were to go about and talk about how to potentially get on TRT by doing the right thing, going to a clinic, doing this or that, you know, I'm like, you'd get a lot of respect for that. That's not what he wants to do. But him and I have had a lot of conversations in person about that kind of stuff. I said, if you were to do it, but promote it in the right way, I think a lot of people would respect it. Because you have, and then it goes, there's a subsect of extremes for every single topic within the fitness space and health space. And it's whether or not like you need TRT or not. It's whether or not you can go into like protein powders or whole foods. Like what do you do? Which, for example, like protein powder is by definition the whole food. Like if you look at a lot of the ingredients, it's like, yeah, there's fillers and other added chemicals, but it's like, dude, it's milk.
It's just been processed down.
Yeah.
No powder.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like it was created in a lab.
Yeah. And I see all these people overly complicate all this different kind of stuff. And is it everything of like, hey, what's the best split right now? What do you do for this? Or it's like, is TRT needed for people? Because a lot of people younger than ever, and I'm not going down the route of like, well, damn, dude, everything, it's like, and we do know that stuff is in our water, stuff's in our food that's causing issues with people. So like some people need TRT sooner than ever. But I kind of asked the question too of like, hey, were there dudes that needed TRT in the 80s and 90s because their levels were trash? Hormone clinics were not really a big thing in the 80s and 90s. We could go back farther than that, which I don't ever see anybody ask that question. You're going to get people who are healthy. You're going to get people who don't get the luck of the draw and their hormones are going to be shit at 18 years old. We see it every day. Mm-hmm. Has it always been like that? Like, has there been 18-year-olds in 1980? But just nobody went to hormone clinics to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they probably didn't know. They weren't testing
exactly. So I think we kind of go down the route of, and I see it. I'm like, I understand both sides. I'm like, that's why there's like nuance, and it seems in the fitness space, nuance or like asking the kind of questions are not allowed anymore. Where you can see it. Name a topic. Anybody can talk about it. Yeah. Like literally name a topic right now. Anything within the fitness space.
Gear.
And so you can go down the route of like, for example, like let's say you go through prescribed clinics, you go to a hormone clinic and people will be like, well, with something like, a lot of guys want to do like Anavar only for a cycle. And I'm like, I wouldn't recommend that. I'd recommend doing testosterone with it. If you did like, and that's it. People will be like, well, I want to do 4 weeks of Anavar on its own. I'm like, you're not really going to get much, but like you'll be fine unless you have just the worst pre-existing conditions of your life. Your genetics suck, everything. Like you'll be fine. You do 4 weeks of it. But it's like all these medications for the most part have real application purposes for like your actual health. Like Anavar can be used for a lot of joint inflammation problems. Let's say you tear your pec and you want to come back from an injury. Mm-hmm. It's like BPC can help, Anavar might help you a lot too. Like for example, if you're a burn victim, Anavar can be used for that as well. Like Anavar can be used for men and women because it's a DHT. It's like, so there's all of these realms of all this different stuff. Like for example, something like DECA, which a lot of power lifters love DECA.
Great for joints.
And you can get DECA prescribed in a lot of states too, at very low doses of it. And that's why people will do either DECA or NPP. And it's like a lot of people will end up getting anxiety if they do too much NPP or too much DECA. That's kind of just...
Yeah, I did for like 3 weeks. And when I first kicked in, I was fucking stressed out of my life. Yeah. Dude, I was having panic attacks for the first time ever, freaking out.
And so what was the dose of it?
Like 200 a week.
And that's the thing is a lot of people ask me questions like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, dude, every single compound is 100% person dependent. Yeah. You don't know until you take something. There's a lot of people, they could take testosterone and their body's just not going to react to it all. And I think that's the biggest like heartbreaker to a lot of people is like taking testosterone and being like, fuck, my body's just rejecting it. It's like, that sucks, but not everybody's meant to be a bodybuilder.
It's so different based on your own makeup. My friend was on 75 mgs of test. That's it. And he was like, I feel superhuman. I've never felt like this in my life.
Yeah.
Some people take 200 and they're like, I feel the same.
Yeah. And it's all genetics and you don't know until you do it. There's some people who they'll go from 200 to 500. Mm-hmm. They won't feel much of a difference. So when they go from 500 to 700, they'll feel it. And then, you know, it's like there's a bell curve to pretty much everything. Like a lot of these cycles, a lot of people are doing like for their contest preps are wicked. Like they're nuts. And like, for example, a drug like Anavar, you'll see people do. It's like, I don't really think there's much of a need to go above 50. I know people that'll do 100 mgs of it. But I'm like, whatever. If you hire a coach and that's what they're telling you to do, go for it. But there's just there's a bell curve to everything. It's like, are you getting the most out of it with the least amount of side effects?
Right. Like, and it probably takes testing too to figure it out for yourself.
Exactly. Everybody's completely different.
Yeah.
Like there's guys who are doing Olympia preps on 1.8 grams of tren who are,
that's crazy.
And I know people who will take 100 mgs of tren and then their bodies, they're whacked out of their mind.
Totally.
They're completely different people. And one thing I see very commonly nowadays with a lot of guys who are getting newer into the gym is like their cycles that they're doing are like Anavar only, or they're doing test and tren, and they'll do like 400 test, 400 tren. And I'm just like,
that's crazy.
Wild.
That's crazy.
So I've seen everything on the spectrum, and there's maybe like 50 people in the fitness space that are overly open about gear. Obviously all the pro bodybuilders and everything, but they're not overly making the content of like, hey, here's what you'd be doing. 'Cause I don't make a lot of the content. I know people that do, that will be like, hey, run this compound with this, do this or that. I don't overly talk about the pros of stuff. I talk about more about like health mitigation.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm sponsored by a clinic, and I don't do it just to be like, oh, here, go to my clinic because you can get ancillaries or other medications you need. But I'll talk, for example, about, let's say, you know, a drug like, you know, glutathione. And I tell people all the time, like, hey, glutathione is an awesome thing you can take.
Yeah.
One of the worst things ever to inject, because it feels like you're injecting static into your body.
Crazy.
Have you ever taken it?
Is it intramuscular?
Yeah. Do not do it subcutaneous.
I've only done
that'll hurt so bad.
I do liposomal glutathione, just like that I take orally.
I usually
do the injectable,
injected them.
and it fucking hurts.
Really? Well, IV glutathione, you don't really feel anything.
Yeah, I usually go to IV clinic and get like
There's people that do the IV glutathione. I think that's what Lance Armstrong and all of them were doing.
It's expensive as fuck though.
Yeah, we were talking about it in our group chat, because that's the funny thing is like our clinic group chat is literally just people who are like I don't want to say the top roiders in the industry, but it's basically just people who are very open about their not abuse. Some people are very open about it.
Some people are just drug addicts and like to party.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I try to tell people like, well, for glutathione, I tell people like, if you're gonna go out drinking, I have friends that I know that are natural, and I'll say, hey, dude, you should there's a lot of people like, if you take glutathione before you go out and you go drinking,
yeah,
you're not gonna get a high
number.
number.
Your liver out. Yeah, it's amazing.
And
when I first started taking glutathione,
yeah,
I started taking it for the first like 4 or 5 days. My urine smelled super weird because it was just cleaning my entire fucking liver.
So how much do you usually take and how often?
So I do. So a lot of it depends like on your blood work. Like for example, like if your ALT is super high or all this, I just do 200 mgs every other day. I just filter myself out constantly, which sucks to do. It's like a full CC. It hurts.
Wild.
And I tell people it's like you just get used to it. Like it doesn't hurt as much now as because I think I'm just used to it.
Just like pinning, you just get used to pinning.
It's like for example, I pin everything with a 29 gauge 1/2 inch. I just use basically an insulin needle.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that would take a long ass time.
You just get kind of used to it. Yeah. I mean, my thumb hurts a little bit sometimes, but like
you're sitting there for a couple minutes.
It's like 30 seconds.
Really?
You just get used to it. Plus too, like for example, because right now I just started my first ever like bigger cycle. Most I'd ever done a week was about 700 milligrams total of everything.
Okay.
And now we're on 200 mgs of test every other day, 100 mgs of EQ every other day. I started recently because that's kind of the fun thing about like the clinic is that a lot of us kind of just talk about like different ideas for stuff. A few of us now are microdosing tren. I do 10 mgs every other day.
Oh wow!
Just to kind of see, just not too much. My personality doesn't really change much. I'm just kind of calm all the time. I get told I'm kind of like an emotionless person, which I'm not. Like I feel it, but like very physically, I'm not like. You're not going to see me like very sad or any of that kind of stuff.
Stoic.
Like, it drives a lot of women nuts. Like if I'm dating them, so like you don't ever like show a lot of physical, man. It's just kind of who I am.
But secretly they love it.
I bet. Yeah. I don't know. I don't get worked up about shit.
Yeah.
No, I think women, they may say they don't like it, but it plays with their head, so it makes them more attractive.
And it's not like I like sit here like purposely trying to like.
I'm not saying you are.
I know. It's just, but a lot of people will be like, oh, I need to. It's like I'm a very laid back person.
Which is
and
great
then,
for bodybuilding and taking.
Yeah. And it's like, Nick, granted, I've never done crazy physiological doses of, because like all my friends now who are like open guys, you know, I think, and I'm glad that I have the respect of the open bodybuilders. Like I'll talk with Ian Valier every now and then, different guys like Brett, and like my roommate is like little best friends of Martin. So it's like seeing all these guys, and I'm like, I'm glad that I get the respect of these guys.
Nice.
Just talking with them, like a lot of the top level coaches, just bouncing ideas off of them of like, hey, I want to be doing this. Like what, you know, like for example, I'm going to get cancer gene testing done as I started growth hormone about 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So that's my cycle now is like I'm doing 4 IUs a day, and it's like, I feel good, but it's like, you got to get your cancer gene testing done. Because it's like, and it goes back to like, yo, you never know what's going on with your body. Like, and it's like, you don't know, but you get the cancer gene testing done. And I want to shout out David Demasqueta, Dynamite D as he's known, because he was the one that was telling me to do this, because he's like, a lot of people don't think to do it. He's like, you do this, it'll basically let you know if you're going to end up probably getting certain cancers. Mm-hmm. He's like, because you might think like, for example, like, oh, well, you know, my grandma had this or whatever. I'm like, well, you don't know if you're going to get it. Like, for example, a lot of people have to bring up like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to take gear. I don't take testosterone. So I don't know if I'm going to go bald. And I'm like, dude, it's 100% genetic. It's like, it's not like you just.
It's only going to speed it.
I know.
It's not going to make you bald.
Oh, I know. And there's people I know who like run a gram or 2 of Mastron, full head of hair. For me, I'm going to lose my hair. So I'm just going to go buzz cut at some point.
Yeah.
As we've gotten older, I just collectively just like slowly get my hair shorter and shorter over time. I just like whatever. I'm not ugly.
Just
I'm
get
not
some stem
fat.
cells up there, dude. You'll be good.
I got that. There's a test. Is it the Ghrelin?
Yeah.
Ghrelin.
Yeah.
So I got that recently too. I think everybody really should get it, especially if in your genetic.
I think most of your I think most people's insurance covers cancer gene testing too. If not, I believe it's like $300. I haven't done it yet. I'm just going off what David told me.
I got my full cancer test panel, and it was like $500, but I added a couple extra ones in there.
Yeah.
Just because, like, the thing is, they don't have a lot of tests for brain cancer because the blood doesn't pass through your blood-brain barrier. And that was the one I was most concerned about, just because my dad had brain tumors.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have like a few that they can test for brain, but it's super
and that's
rare.
the thing is it's still not even like certain as far as like if you're, because there's all these other hereditary factors of and that's it. You kind of just don't know.
Yeah, but it's still good to test it anyways.
Exactly.
I also started growth a couple weeks ago, and it's like, I'd rather test this before.
And what's funny about how was your sleep the first 2 weeks?
Do my sleep's always bad?
You sleep like 12 hours a day when you started growth?
No. My sleep, like my Oura ring, it tells me I wake up all the time. Yeah. I wake up during the night, but that's happened for years.
There's a peptide you should take called DSIP.
DSIP.
I promote it all the time. It's called Delta Sleep Inducing Peptide. Okay. Our research company makes it, and it's you can use injection or nasal. I just use the nasal. I pin way too much shit.
Is it similar to Pineolon?
Or different?
Bit. Okay.
A little different though.
Okay.
Basically, you'll just get deep fucking sleep on.
Dude, I'm in.
And a lot of the bodybuilders I know, they will take growth and they'll take DSIP. It's like the first 2 weeks I took growth, I want to sleep like 12 hours a day. It was funny because I was like, my mom, I think, because I was telling my mom about this because like, I think because like growing up in Columbus, Ohio, every kid, you go to the Arnold every year. I think she knew at some point I would start doing this or that, but she has a little bit more ease of mind now that I'm just like, hey, I work with a hormone clinic. I do this. Like I have access to this or that. It's like, I'm not getting shitty quality gear off websites from China, and there's a lot more ease of mind now. And she'll call me now and be like, hey, have you heard of this peptide or whatever? It's the rave that women are talking about. And I'm like, you don't need this, but like this might be beneficial for you, whatever.
Nice.
Like DSIP is awesome. It's like it's crazy too, because like it helps a lot like with your circadian rhythm, I believe. And I've noticed too that I've been waking up like the exact same time every single day.
Do you take it at night?
I take it at night. Yeah. I just
how do you spell it
before DSIP, just DSIP. Yeah. It's awesome. It's like, it depends on how you dose it. And I think I get a lot of questions like, hey, how do you dose this peptide? How do you do this or that? And I'm like, well, dude, there's so many variables. Like how much, backwater are you putting in it? What are you doing with that? So I just tell people like, just Google it.
Yeah, dude, I'll research it and then hit you up about it because my sleep definitely needs some attention.
DSIP is awesome. It's not kind of one of those. I think a lot of people, when they assume of like sleep stuff, they think of like, for example, melatonin, where they're just like, oh shit, all right, if I take this, is it going to make me tired in 30 minutes? Not a lot of stuff is very different, and it's kind of just like I think you just kind of be easy to go to bed. So I know one thing nowadays is a lot of people are overly worried about, for example, like blue light glasses. I think that's a trend just to kind of make money. I haven't really seen anything, and I tell people like I'm on my phone computers for a job all day. I can just turn it off and roll over and go to bed. I don't know if it's actually like, for some people it might benefit people, but I have no issue with it. And so a lot of the stuff that a lot of people promote for health purposes, and it's very big on like TikTok shop and like social media, where it's very easy, because I think every day everybody wants to be healthier now. They want to think about how can I improve my life in easier ways. So you'll see a lot of stuff too, like collagen peptides are a big one. Blue light glasses, so just see any different kind of thing. And a lot of it is,
I don't know about the effects on sleep. I'm sure there's a lot of studies, but I do notice, because I'm on a computer.
Some people it can strain their eyes.
Yeah, when I wear blue light glasses, I put them on like most of the day, and my eyes don't strain. Yeah, like when I'm staring at just straight at the screen. So there's definitely benefit to it.
Exactly, but I think a lot of people will market it as like, you'll stay up too late at night, and I'm just like, most of the guys I know who do this, they're just like, just roll over and go to bed.
So you had brought up something about when people DM, you get like 50 DMs and like, hey, should I start this gear thing? And you ask them these questions. Hey, what do you do if you get high blood pressure, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's going to take gear, what do you think are the main, I guess concerns isn't the right word, but like things that they should look out for? Yeah. And then how do they mitigate those things?
So first thing too, regardless of your age, you can be 18 years old and take gear, you can be 50 and start TRT, or if you want to do whatever, just get your blood work first, because you will never be natural level again. You will never know what's going on. And when you do get blood work, it's what's going on in your body at that exact moment, which I think a lot of people assume it's like, okay, if I get my blood work and this is going on, it's probably an indicator of the last couple months or so. It's like, nope, shit can change very, very quickly. For example, you can spike a lot of stuff very quickly. Like if you were to, let's say, binge like crazy and you go to Crumble Cookie every day for a week, you can spike your ALT or do all these different kinds of things. So it's what's going on at the moment. It's the same thing too, like if you use a blood pressure monitor, check your blood pressure, it's that exact moment. You could check it 3 hours later, it'll be completely different. You check it 3 hours later, it'll be completely different again. So it's understanding that like, it's just a baseline.
Yeah, you can also crash your test.
You can
easily crash your test. You can go out party.
There's people that'll try to do that. Secondly, I would recommend, and it just depends on the route you want to go down, I recommend people go to an endocrinologist. Most of your family physicians or primary health cares don't know shit. And I'm not blaming them. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, doctors are stupid. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to go to my podiatrist. I don't have a podiatrist, but like, I'm not going to go to a foot doctor and ask him about, kidney health or anything like that. He might have some general understanding of stuff. Like I have a friend of mine, he played football at University of Cincinnati when I was there, and then now he's at Harvard Medical School. And when they were doing introductory stuff his first semester, they would just go very quickly over different stuff. And he messaged me about a peptide called melanotan, which a lot of people in the fitness space love. Is called MT2. And a lot of people use it, basically just increases melanin production in your skin. So like I tell people, if you're going to go out in the summer, you're going to go tan, or you're going to go paddleboarding, or if you're going to go use a tanning bed or whatever, even if you just want to take it on its own, you'll get a little bit tanner from it. And he'd DM me and he'd text me and he'd be like, what is this? I'd be like, basically work as an appetite suppressant, make your skin a little bit tanner. The weird thing is most peptides or things in general, one of the side effects is it'll kind of make you hornier. And so I'm like, guys or just women or bodybuilders in general love that kind of stuff, because like, and women will take it too, because it's like appetite suppressant if you're cutting and you want to get tanner for summer and all this stuff. It's like, gee, that's awesome. Like those are the three things. And it's like, obviously there's side effects. Like some people get nausea from it because they don't dose it right. So I tell people just do it before you go to bed. Or just if you're going to go tanning, like go out in the sun or go paddleboarding, take a little bit of it. So get your blood work, know what's going on. Talk to somebody that's educated. And there are a lot of like beneficial resources out there. I'm not talking like, you know, a book you can buy, or it's like, I'm sure somebody's made a book, but there are resources. There are people who put out good information that talk openly about this kind of stuff, not just like the benefits of stuff, but like possible side effects of stuff and really how to deal with it. Most side effects of stuff you'll really see are just nausea or just basics. I don't know if you see a random like boner pill commercial, you know, the NFL Network or ESPN during a Monday night game. You know, it's not a list of 50 side effects of like stroke or all this crazy, you know, it's like, you know, see an old couple walking down a sidewalk. It's not like that. It's more just like nausea or things. It's just random stuff you'll see. It's nothing really
random
crazy.
Subtle things that could come about.
Yeah. And so
there actually is a good peptide handbook you can get.
Yeah.
My client brought me one. I think everybody should get that.
And there's a lot more research done on peptides than people assume there are. Like I had a guy, you probably saw me post about it yesterday. There was a guy who was like, well, for example, something like BPC is all very new. And I'm like, we don't really know the long-term efficacy of it. I'm like, dude, it's been researched heavily since as early as I could find is 2006, probably even way earlier than that. A lot of this stuff is just becoming very mainstream as of the last year or two. So that's why a lot of people assume, holy shit, this is the new fad, where it's like, this is not new by any means. So talking to people who understand, going to get your blood work, and then from there, it's like, I don't even necessarily want to say sourcing this stuff. So a lot of people will go underground because the clinics kind of overcharge like crazy for a lot of different stuff. But it's like, I would recommend going to a clinic if you can. Or there's also a thing too, where you go find an actual doctor who can just prescribe stuff. There are a lot of people who have telehealth licenses in many states where they are able to just prescribe you stuff. And then you could go to CVS and pick it up. You could use, you know, something like GoodRx or something and you just scan it. You get, for example, like a medication like telmisartan, which I think is very underutilized. Do you know what telmisartan is?
No.
Most people don't. I'm not most people don't.
No.
So telmisartan is one of the strongest myocarditis medications you can take. Yeah. And so a lot of people, especially they got the COVID vaccine, for example, there are a lot of myocarditis cases, but also a lot of people in the bodybuilding space will take telmisartan or a derivative called olmesartan pretty commonly. I take telmisartan about 40 mg every day before bed. Just phenomenal for heart health. If you're going to take olmesartan, can help a little bit more with insulin sensitivity for some people. Some people overly kind of worry about that stuff, so they take 10 things for their insulin sensitivity. But all this, we have all this stuff that you can use that'll keep you very safer. So everything is about risk mitigation, because a lot of people love to bring up, it's like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to touch testosterone or gear because I want to live to be 40 or 50. And I'm like, all right, well, there's a lot of guys a lot more people that take shit than you think, and they're 70, 80 years old. You just only see the highlighted cases of bodybuilders who die in their 30s or 40s, mainly due to competing. But what they don't talk about is it's like, hey, it's heavy diuretic use, heavy diuretic use. And it's normally around show day when they will pass away because their kidneys are just done. That's when most stuff happens. And obviously, and you have freak accidents with stuff mainly due to hereditary or genetic kind of stuff. It's not like you just, you know, if you inject a gram of tren, it's not like you're just going to OD and I think that's,
you'll be wild for a little while.
You might beat your wife for a little bit. And then,
it's just but I think there's a lot of the misconceptions in that sense. And so going about that, you got to understand and have someone who's very intelligent to be able to sit here and, like, for example, after you get your blood work, look at it and be like, hey, these would probably be things that'd be more beneficial for you, because a lot of people, you know, they can't tell the difference between if their estrogen is low or high, like especially like if they start testosterone or something. So they'll sit here and they'll kind of be like, all right, well, I start testosterone, or most of the time a lot of people will start something else with it because they're impatient, and they'll just crash the shit out of their estrogen because their doctor will be like, oh, well, you know, use this AI, use this right away. And then they'll be like, shit, I don't really feel good. And, you know, high estrogen, a lot of people know how that feels, but it's also like low estrogen can make people feel exactly the same, but it's all genetic. Like if my estrogen is low, I'm just same, calm, chill, I'm fine. Some people, like, they would be feeling horrible. But we do know, like, if your estrogen is super low, then, you know, your joints will hurt. You could deal with a lot of inflammation problems. If it's super high, you know, some people get very emotional, or like gynecomastia issues, you know, a lot of which is also kind of genetic for a lot of people too. But there's all these different things. So it's talking with intelligent people who have your best interests at heart to try to keep you safer. And not just the typical, all right, here's testosterone, here is Arimidex or Aromasin or what other kind of relaxafine or anything if you needed it. And then from there, understanding, it's like, okay, well, your blood work says this, you know, you have high ALT, it's like crazy high. Maybe you should take like Crestor for 5 milligrams 3 times a week for like 3 months to help lower it down. So there's all these different things that you can be doing to help keep you safer for longer. And I think a lot of guys in general, they're very much about the kind of mindset of, I don't want to just be taking 40, 50 pills a day. I don't want to be doing this. And I'm like, some of these medications you can use intelligently will keep it so that when you're 50, 60 years old, you're still very healthy. You're healthier than you would be if you weren't. And I think that's kind of a thing. A lot of guys are afraid to kind of be like, well, I don't want to. And it's like, these are all just mitigation steps to keep you healthier for a much longer period of time. Granted, abuse plays into a factor or not, but less people are abusing than you really think they are.
Mm-hmm.
But also,
and more people are on gear than you think. That's
and also,
what I learned.
But at the same time, more people are abusing than you think, which sounds contradictory.
Yeah.
I'm like, most people are taking
both
less than you
pools are
think.
way bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what finally convinced me that gear can be safe? Because I was always of the camp of like, steroids are bad, right?
How old are you?
31.
So I think what happened, because like me being 26, if you ask your parents about it, if anybody has parents that are 40, 50 years old, a lot of it goes back to essentially, I think it was like the year 1999 or 2000 when a lot of the baseball players are brought in front of Congress for all the doping stuff.
Yeah.
And ever since then, and the thing too is like the FDA does not allow for very serious studies to be done on a lot of hormones, on a lot of steroids. And so what we rely on is either other countries, like Russia does a lot of studies, Hungary does a lot of studies. But also I tell people too, like, do you know what the actual studies are? The bodybuilders.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Like they've capped research on it for so long.
That's why when you go to a clinic, for example, you look at a company like Merrick or the company that I'm with, Algo, who runs it? Who owns it? Bodybuilders, people who have dabbled into all these different compounds, like the real life human application, the real studies are the people who have taken stuff. Like there's a guy with our clinic, his name is Chase Irons. He was trying to get his testosterone over 20,000 nanograms a deciliter.
Crazy.
So he was doing all the trials on himself and he was like, how can I do this as safely as possible? He was getting blood work every 3 weeks. He was going through everything.
Did he get to 20,000?
I think it capped it. They basically had to keep they had to keep like paying. The clinic had to keep finding out ways to like raise the bar to see how high they can get the reader to go. And so it's like, but he went and got like a cardiograph done. He got all these tests on his organs and everything. And it came out fine. Does it mean long-term it's going to be fine? No. But at the moment, his test was at like 20,000.
World record highest test.
So he was just
pretty
like,
hard.
So he was just like, oh, I'm going to do it. I was like, all right. And now he's in like a health phase right now.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of like, we are the trials.
Well, the thing is, like, steroids could be so much safer if research wasn't capped for years and years.
Exactly.
They really just like put a kibosh on it. And so, like you said, it's just bodybuilders experimenting and doing the research on themselves when we could have been working on it. Like we're working on cancer drugs and working on all these different types of drugs.
And I think they do. They will do some research on it
in time,
But it's more, I think it's just very hidden. I don't really think it's very pushed a lot to the public.
Yeah.
I think because a lot of people, and I think it's more about like just the pharmaceutical industry, like where a lot of people, like if they were to take something that is significantly cheaper, then they'll feel better. And I'm not going the route of like, oh, the pharmaceutical industry just wants to make money. They don't cure people. They don't do this.
I mean, they do.
And it's like, but I don't like to just go down the route of just like, oh, well, they don't want to help, because like there are good people that work in the healthcare industry. They want to help people. They just might not necessarily know, because in school, in medical school, they're not taught about these other treatments. they're just kind of known. It's like, all right, well, this is what is recommended most of the time. So they're doing what's best at the time to help people. And obviously, I don't have a medical license. I don't prescribe people medications. I can just push them down the route of like what I have seen personally, mentors that I have known done. It's just kind of common knowledge as far as like, hey, a lot of bodybuilders, if you're having a lot of joint inflammation pain, they'll take BPC, or they'll do, low dose DECA, or they'll do NPP. A lot of powerlifters will live by NPP or DECA because they're like, all right, well, if you're pushing that much weight, your joints, you want them to be feeling good. So that's where most people get their injuries, is they'll start their first cycle and, the muscle will build very quickly. Joints and tendons take a longer time to kind of catch up to that. That's why most people will do their first cycle or two. They'll injure themselves very quickly, and then they'll be like, shit.
Because they're going so fast up in weights.
Yep, because you'll build the muscle, and then it's just there's not really lifting right or recovering right. And that's why it's like it takes time for everything to kind of build up.
How do you mitigate that for yourself? Because in your videos, you're strong as shit. Do you take deloads? How do you let your...
It's crazy. I don't really necessarily believe in deloads.
Okay.
And that's just like a personal mindset. I don't really see much of a benefit to it. I would just say take a rest day.
Just time off.
Yeah. I don't really think there's an idea of like, there's obviously certain factors to it. Like if you're coming right out of like a show prep, don't go in and try to PR. Don't go in and try to, go really, really heavy. It's like, you're very depleted. It's like your joints are going to hurt. Everything's going to hurt. You have all the water out of you. It's more so just being smart at the moment. It's like, it's just like, just taking it slow. It's not a rush. And for me, I sit here and I'm like, I don't really do PRs. I don't do singles and stuff. Really the lowest rep range I'll do is like 8 for things, which therefore it's like your body can adjust to it very quickly because you're not trying to just do one top push of everything. So I really just take it slow. But I also understood beforehand, I was like, okay, well, I know that it's common. People get injured like this. So I'm not just going to try to, within 4 weeks of taking something, go bench, 5 plates or do this or that. Just build up to it over time using progressive overload. Like just not trying to get a PR really, really quickly just for social media purposes. You don't really get much out of it besides posting a video about it for social media to get some clicks.
Like when you're training, how do you determine a good training session for yourself? Like what are you thinking about? What are you trying to feel? And how do you break things up?
So for me, and I think I kind of want to break it down into like my split as well. So for me, it's more so about, and I think a lot of people when they think about their split, like there's a topic right now as far as like, well, upper lower is the best right now, or full body, or push pull legs, or just different varieties of splits. People argue all the time, what's the best split? Because a study comes out and says, well, some people get 2% more growth doing upper lower split. I'm like, that's great. But like, what are your weaknesses? I'll ask people this and they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm like, what are your weaknesses and your strengths right now? Like, I guess my legs are kind of a weakness. I'm like, okay, and my chest is good. Okay, well, program your split so you're killing your legs. You got to bring those up. You got to be able to maintain your chest as well. So it's not a simple upper, lower, this or that or whatever. Like for me, my arms were a weakness because I was just kind of lazy. I was probably the one kid that was like, I just like training legs way more. I was like in high school, I wanted better legs than anybody. I was like first person to wear like 5-inch inseam shorts in like 2016. And I was like, I just never really cared as much about arms. So for me now, my split is broken into like, hey, prioritizing arms while being able to maintain my back, my chest, and my shoulders, and still my legs are probably my best body part, but maintaining those as well. So it's going in and kind of thinking as far as like, okay, what's a good training session is like, and it's not just about the pump, but it's like, am I doing all the things I need to do? And it goes into like the exercise selection, but also just kind of the feeling of like, okay, am I getting enough stimulus out of this? Am I getting enough reps? Am I getting enough sets? So a lot of people argue like you don't really need to do more than like 6 to 8 sets per week per body part. And I'm like, all right, well, it just kind of depends. It's like, I think some people can handle a little bit more. Some people it's a little bit less. Some people may only need to hit legs once every 2 to 3 weeks to maintain their legs. And so it's funny because I'm giving such a vague answer to it, but it's not just like when you go in and have a successful training day. It's not just like if you're sore as shit the next day or if you get the craziest pump during it. Because like, if you take Cialis before pre-workout, which I recommend a lot of people would do, not just for like the pump benefits for it or the after gym benefits of it. You know, it's good for prostate health, good for pulmonary tension. Some people can be good for their brain health, you know, cardiovascular, blood pressure. It's not just the pump. It's not just if you can go in there and do the sets of rep. It's like over time, are you progressively overloading? Are you either upping the weight or upping the amount of reps you're able to do with something? So I know I took that just completely in like a big circle, but it's not just like, shit, I had the craziest chest pump. That means it was like a great chest day. Because a lot of people will be upset because they'll wake up and they'll be like, dude, my chest isn't really sore at all, which doesn't mean you had a bad workout either. So it's kind of just like over time. It's not just like a one day kind of thing. It's like, hey, over a span of a couple weeks, how are your workouts going? Now, obviously, you do want to go in there and you want to get pumped. You want to feel good. You want to really feel it. But that doesn't mean necessarily that, like, if you go in there, you're doing 50 reps of something, you're probably going to get pumped from that too. But it's like, it's really just a matter of progressive overload over a period of time.
I also think people get too hyper fixated on studies. They're trying to figure out, what does the science exactly say? And I've been a trainer a long time. Everyone is so different. And I think the more data you can just write and collect and keep notes on and be open to trying things, just because right now it's like, don't go over 4 to 8 reps or heavy training this or higher volume this. It's like, dude, everybody's genetics is so different and every body part responds so different.
Yeah.
Also, different body parts respond maybe heavy cycle for a while, then to light, then something higher frequency, then back. And that random combination, there's no study that's done 10 years of trying every combination of things. You know, there's an art to figuring out your body.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Like,
and that's why I try to explain to people, like, there's no perfect split. And like, for example, a lot of people are overly relying on the studies. Some people will say that a lot of these younger people are managing in the minors before doing the major stuff. I sit here and I'm like, you want to be very meticulous and smart about it, but also like enjoy what you're doing. And if something, for example, is giving you 1 or 2% more activation for a specific muscle group, if you don't like doing it, don't do it. Because like some people genetically, you're going to respond no matter what exercise selection you're doing per group. Like some people are genetically going to have, you know, narrow clavicles or wider clavicles. So it's just a matter of like enjoying the training, but also going in and just effort. Like, are you progressively overloading over time?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will give these kids shit. I kind of give them shit sometimes, but I'll also come to their defense because a lot of bodybuilders, I think a lot of people just assume that they're stupid. They just go work out. They just go throw around weight. Everybody assumes that every bodybuilder is like Branch Warren with this training style, where a lot of pros that I've talked to, they've told me the hardest workout they've ever had in their life was with Branch Warren, which most people don't even know what he does. He'll do crazy circuit training for like an hour. He'll do like trisets and like, I don't know, I guess quad sets of stuff, like crazy superset variations of stuff where it's like, you'll go from this cable to do a cable bicep curl. You'll go over to an easy bar, you'll do curls, and then you'll go do dumbbell hammer curls. You'll just go through all this different stuff. And I think a lot of these kids, I think it's just because of the realm of like what social media is talking about a lot with the overly, I don't want to say optimal kind of stuff, but like a lot of bodybuilders are very smart and very meticulous about what they're doing. That's why they are where they are, but they also enjoy the stuff that they're doing as well. And a lot of people will just say, well, they just look like that because they take gear. And I'm like, I know a lot of people that take a lot of gear and do not look good.
No.
Like, oh, I think there's this perception of like, it's easy to get big. And I'm like, no. If it was easy to get big, everybody would get big.
That goes back to why I think there's such a divided camp with naturals and unnaturals, because naturals really want to find the excuse for why they don't look like their favorite guy they follow.
And I don't want to necessarily say it's an excuse. I think they want to use it because they think, okay, well, I'm not on gear, because their perception, and a lot of them will say things like, oh, if I took, you know, a quarter of what this guy is taking, I'd look as good as him. And so they kind of use that mindset of like, okay, I don't have the advantage of taking gear, because I think you take gear, you're just going to look good or get really big. I'm like, it's not that at all. for some people, of course, but it's like a lot of people are not eating the food, and that goes into another thing. A lot of people nowadays will talk about how there's no need to ever bulk above 200 calories above maintenance. I'm like, all right, ask any bodybuilder or any high level coach. Like, it's not how it works.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot lately, like this saying that bulking is true.
It is vaulted. And a lot of people will bring that up. It started a lot after, it kind of started not because of the bulking argument, but it started because, and I brought this up before, talking about, for example, like the upper lower split, where obviously the upper lower split is not a new thing, but a lot of people started to talk about it a lot more because of a recent study that came out in October, coincidentally around the same time that Mike Sommerfeld got second at the Olympia in the classic physique division. A lot of people didn't know who Mike was beforehand. I predicted he'd get fifth, but I was like, but I actually am a fan of bodybuilding. So he's been top 6, top 7 the last 5 years. And a lot of people, and Mike did an interview right after the Olympia, it was like 2 or 3 days after, where somebody was breaking it down, like, what was your training different, what was your training like? What was different going into this Olympia prep? What was going on? All these other factors. And they'll see the clip of him saying, oh, I did an upper lower split. And I sit here, I'm like, well, also there was a weight cap increase. He put on 12 pounds. He was eating around 3,100 calories the last 5 years. He was at his weight cap. And then he put on 12 pounds because he was eating 4,600 calories year round as well. So you take in all the factors, and that's why there's nuance to everything. Top genetics, especially in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
He was basically 50% over his calories for what he had been for the last 5 years. Him trying, and I think because like I've talked with guys like Dynamite D about this a lot, when you get to that high level of bodybuilding and your genetics are that good, I don't want to say your training isn't as important, because obviously it's not true, but you can kind of throw any split at them and they'll end up being fine, which I think a lot of these kids overlook. And also like some people, for example, like Terrence Ruffin was talking recently about how he was doing it. And a lot of these guys who are trying it, especially at the pro level, they're doing it very differently than what a lot of people expect them to. Some of these guys, not all of them, but some of them will do things where they'll do upper in the morning, they'll go home, they'll go eat, they'll go do stuff, and then later at night they'll do lower at night. Then they'll take an off day. So training twice a day, they're doing all these different stuff just to kind of try different things, not to shock the body, but try different things. And it's not your typical Monday upper, Tuesday lower, rest Wednesday, and then repeat. So there's all these different factors. And I'm like, dude, these guys are going to grow regardless, no matter of what they're doing.
If they're lifting and eating in abundance and on their cycle.
Yeah, when I tell people how much food these open guys are eating, people are shocked. I'm like, dude, because like I don't really believe necessarily you need to be eating 8 times a day like some of these guys are, but they're just doing it. They're hungry and they just gotta eat all the food. And it's more a matter of like, hey, you're just getting in the food you need for the day. I prefer 4 or 5 meals a day, most of the time 5. But like if you gotta eat it over 8, go for it. Some people get so sleepy doing that though. But it's a matter of like, we know that by some studies, like a common discussion of like how much protein can your body digest, It's like there's no point in eating more 30, 40 grams of protein. It's like, I don't know. I don't actually think there's a limit at all. It just takes longer for your body to digest it. Like I tell people too, like if you go to all you can eat sushi or you go to like a Brazilian steakhouse and you just eat 2-3 pounds of steak, doesn't mean that protein is going to be wasted. It's just going to take longer for your body to digest it. Now there are other factors of like, hey, are your kidneys able to process it? Like if you're, wake up in the morning and you piss and it's super foamy, it looks like you just poured a beer out of a tap. Like, hey, something's probably wrong. You should get your kidneys checked because, something's going on there. But it's like, I think a lot of these kids, and it's not their fault. I think they just not going to say reinvent the wheel. They think that they're coming up with something or something super innovative when it's just a derivative of something we've known for a long time. And I think that's kind of a problem with a lot of stuff. Like, for example, I was posting a lot about 1.5 years ago about how I love doing Yates rows just because I love the movement. It's a fun movement. And then all these people started doing it. I'm not saying I made Yates rows popular on the TikTok fam, but I sit here and I'm like, I never argued it was the best back exercise or doing whatever. Like we know for a fact barbell rows are not quote unquote the best back because everybody overly worries about isolation for everything, where they'll sit here and, you've probably seen it. Everybody overly worried about isolating their lats when training back for the last couple years. And I'm like, Yates rows or barbell rows are just fun. You're kind of getting a little bit of everything when you train it. It's not technically the most scientifically optimal back exercise or back movement to do. It's kind of a fun thing to do. It's not the end of the world. As long as you're hitting everything else throughout the rest of the workout, it'll be fine. It's fine to have upper back or lat focused back days, whatever you're doing. Just enjoy your training, but also like be smart with what you're doing as well. Don't go in and hit 4 lat exercises and then be like, cool, that's my back day. Next day I'm gonna do 4 lat exercises again. Just like be intelligent with what you're doing, but don't overly think it. And that's why a lot of the bodybuilders will kind of just sit here and be like, yo, just go eat, just go work out, like have some food every now and then. And that's the thing that's why there's nuance to everything. That's the thing I preach every single day is a lot of these people, they just, and I'm not going to, going back to like, it's not an excuse for why they're not big or why they don't look that good, or just because they're natural, they don't look that good. And it's not that they're majoring in the minors before majoring in the majors. They're just not doing anything. They're not pushing themselves in any aspect of what they're doing. They're not going to the gym and just putting out a lot of effort. They're not eating with intent. Like when I tell people, like, you can make your food taste good. You don't have to eat, just chicken and rice with no seasoning or anything like that. But they're not eating. They're not going in there. And I tell people all the time, hey, you're just going to benefit from getting food. Like and it goes into a discussion of like, for example, on your rest days, do you need to be doing lower carb? It's like some people maybe, some people no. Like how does your body respond? Martin Fitzwater, his last Olympia prep, he didn't do cardio. He didn't need to do cardio. That's why it's not just a one size fit all, or because a study says something, where it's a very controlled group, a very controlled setting. It's like, that's why real world application matters with everything you're doing. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like the steroid studies. The real world application is the people doing the steroids. What does their health look like while they're doing it, after, and so on later down the line because of different compounds. Real world application matters more based off of a study. Use studies to kind of set you down the right path, but understand doesn't mean that it's going to be the end all be all. Like, what's your experience with it? And then take derivatives of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like an economist telling you how business works when they've never run a business.
It's your economics professor who's never had a job besides being a professor.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, maybe the principles could work, but you actually don't know how they work because you've never realistically applied them and gone through the ringer with it.
And that's why I tell people the science changes all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I'm not saying just because a study comes out, you got to listen to it or turn it away because it's brand new. Just understand the science will change all the time.
Understand you're looking at a sliver of something and there's a whole story, but you just don't see it yet.
Also, you know how many books I could find on nutrition with amazing amounts of studies that support not eating meat?
Yeah.
And how many books I can find how beneficial eating meat is? Yeah. So who's right?
How does your body respond to it?
Yeah, it's so personal. They'll go on a vegan diet and say it cures all their illnesses. Yeah. Other people get on a vegan diet and they get arthritis.
I think because they have no. I think a common one we see is carnivore.
Totally, same.
It's very popular.
Yeah.
So a lot of people
carnivore fucks some people up, and for some people,
a lot of people end up pre-diabetic.
Autoimmune disease.
A lot of people end up pre-diabetic too, and they don't know it. It's because they'll get their blood work and they'll post it and talk about it. But like, my testosterone is this or that. I'm like, dude, you're pre-diabetic.
So look at your blood sugar.
And then what happens is they're very much like the vegans. They're like, no, you're just not doing it right. You're not following the dogma.
And it's like, could you be vegan for a month and be healthy? Go for it.
Yeah.
Could you do carnivore for a month and be healthy? Yeah. Would it suck just eating that much meat and fruit? Yeah. But it's like, just understand, like, it's not the end all be all. Like, you'll be fine. Yeah. Or the people too that are like, oh, well, for example, I'm just trying to think of obscure examples that are just overplayed. Like, a lot of people, like, and we see it a lot, are just like, oh, well, you know, I don't want seed oils and anything. I'm like, dude, you're going to be fine if you have a little something that, like, I'm not saying make those the priority for what you're cooking with or whatever. Like, and a lot of people go down the route too. They'll be like, oh, I only cook everything in butter. And I'm like, all right, well, don't use a stick of butter to cook with, but like
extremes.
Butter's high in selenium, which most people are deficient in anyways. So like, go for it. But like, you know, be smart about it. Like, I'd prefer olive oil, or whether you want tallow or ghee or, you know, butter or something. Like, you know, obviously I'm not saying cook a bunch of stuff in, you know, soybean oil or anything like that. Like, you go to a restaurant, they have a little bit in it. Like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, your body's pretty good at filtering things out.
That's why I tell people, like, a diversity of the different food you're eating is like beneficial.
Yeah.
It's like the same people, like everybody nowadays thinks that they're lactose intolerant. And I'm like, no, you're not. You just don't ever have milk. You don't ever have dairy. So the one time you do it because you want pizza, or you go to an Italian restaurant, you get a bunch, you know, get Alfredo sauce. Your body might be like, oh, this is different. I tell people all the time, drink a glass of milk. And obviously some people can't handle it. Some people can. Like, I'm from the Midwest. Like, people drink milk. Like, if you have a glass of milk every night for a month, your body will either adapt to it or it won't.
That's the cure for lactose intolerance. Glass of milk every night for a month.
And some people, and it's just how it is. Like, some people can't do it. And it's like, if you're not used to, for example, like having seasoning or anything on any of your food. For example, a lot of seasonings can be very good for digestive health as well. Because like, you know, let's say, for example, you have like, you put cinnamon on your yogurt, or you cook with cayenne pepper or cumin or turmeric. There's a lot of health benefits to a lot of these spices. That's why wars and people colonize each other over spices and over salt. Like, salt's one of the biggest ones as well. Like, most people, they think sodium is too much of an issue. I'm like, dude, get salt in your body. Like, if you're exercising regularly and your blood pressure is okay, you know, obviously don't just rely on like Cialis or baby aspirin or whatever to bring your blood pressure down. Like, lose weight, do your cardio, limit some sodium if needed. But
especially a lot of people have low blood pressure. Like, you need that salt.
Yeah. Or it's like one thing too, where a lot of younger women nowadays think that they have severe thyroid problems, where it's like, well, what else is going on too? Because a lot of times thyroid issues in women are very visible to see. Or it's like they'll kind of get, I call it kind of like a frog throat. If you see it, it's like very puffy. It's like very fatty under their jaw, or just very visibly like in their face. A lot of
ribbit.
Yeah. And the rest of their body can be leaner or not, but it's just a matter of just like genetics and that's why I tell people just get blood work. Because like, obviously it tells you what's going on in this moment, but it doesn't mean that it's like the end all be all. It just lets you know like what's going on with your body.
Yeah. Have you ever worn a blood sugar monitor?
I have a couple times. I'm not overly too worried, because like when I do get my blood work every couple months, everything comes back within range. I don't overly eat a lot of sugar stuff. Like, I'll use a little bit of honey with stuff, and most of the time it'll come from really just like an intro drink or something.
Yeah. They're cool. We just got some. We've been wearing them for what, 2-3 days now?
Yeah.
It's just kind of see how it like spikes and what foods spike it up.
And that's one thing too, is a lot of people, I've seen people talk about it where they'll be like, oh, well, for example, you know, if you eat this food, there's a guy on TikTok, he would make this kind of content where he'd be like, okay, I'm going to show you what it's like before I eat Chick-fil-A and then after. I'm like, all right, well, do you pre-diabetic or do you have diabetes? I comment to that. He was like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, does your pancreas work? It's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And it's almost like, I don't want to say it's like rage bait, or it's like, what's the type of content, or it's like just trying to scare people. But it's like fear tactic, or
like he made the video to show, look how
and
my
I'm
blood
just
sugar
like,
spikes.
and all these people are overly worried about it.
Buns, it's gonna spike.
And I'm just like, dude, like if you're not pre-diabetic, you don't have diabetes. I'm not saying like don't worry about it at all, but like to kind of push a lot of these things, and a lot of people do it to kind of push supplements, especially on like TikTok.
Totally.
Like one thing we would see a lot of is like people talking about like cortisol face or whatever, where it's like, no, you probably just have inflammation because your diet is horrible. You don't exercise. Basically just like a little bit of puffiness in your face. Or just like, I don't know. And I just sit here and people will be like, I was taking this cortisol supplement for 6 weeks and then my face is leaner. I'm like, did you just lose weight? Like, did you reduce sodium? Like, did you do this? Because like for me, my body tolerates sodium higher and I'm fine. It's also like genetics, like what's going on with you. Some people are going to have leaner faces. Some people are going to have puffier faces. But a lot of people want to use this kind of stuff nowadays to monetize different products and consumerism, which like I do in aspects as well. Like I'll post on social media like, hey, you know, like let's talk about something like, you know, D-SIP or Cialis or all these different kinds of things. Or it could be even different medications. Like one of my favorites that I promote is a peptide called GHKCU, which I call is like the pretty boy peptide. It can help with like a lot of skin health for hair and all this different stuff. And I talk about it. I'm plugging it. Of course I can make money if people buy it, but I'm like, you know, some people benefit from, but I'm not coming on here and being like, oh, well, if you don't use this, like your acne is going to get bad or do this or that. It's, you know, I'm not finding a problem to provide you the solution.
You're not providing panaceas like this is the cure all. And if you don't have this, there's no other way to fix it.
And like one thing too is like BPC 157 can be great for a lot of people's acne because you can use it topically as well if you were to mix it in. Because like I work with a skincare company, it's just natural. They just make a lot of like beef towel kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but they're not overly like cringe about it. They just kind of shit post on the internet. There's like a group chat with me and the two owners. We just like shit post memes all day. They post a lot of like Pepe memes, like using our stuff. Or we'll call people like, here's like a soy versus like a Chad list of stuff to do. Or it's like, don't be a guy that does this, or like a guy that like, you know, sits at the booth side at a restaurant compared to the chair. Like a guy that, you know, attends brunch with only dudes. Or it's kind of like ways of like, I don't want to say subtly calling a guy like gay. That's doing it. But it's like, don't go drink boba tea.
It's
like
a soy activity.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you go get coffee, like have it be black coffee, you know,
no frappuccinos.
It's just, that's the whole point of it. It's like if you go fishing, just, you know, make sure you're standing in the water too and you're hand fishing. It's really stupid stuff just to like shit post on the internet.
Yeah.
Because every guy's kind of retarded and it's like every guy just wants to see the other guys are retarded. It's really all it is.
Yeah. It's how we bond.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of the stuff nowadays. Everybody's so put together, where a lot of these brands kind of hurt themselves in their image because it's very inauthentic. Where it's like if you just see companies that just post whatever they want, like people like it more.
One thing I like about your Instagram, I was looking at it, is your ethereal test boosters.
Oh, I just love posting that shit.
Hilarious, dude.
It's the same thing. I'll post random shit. Or it'll be like a test booster, and it'll be like a, you know, 1990s Jaguar XCJ 22R or whatever it is, and people just be like, nice, like,
nice,
yeah.
Hell yeah. It was the hell yeah button.
And it's just random shit. I'll be like, and I think that's the thing. I'll be like making homemade pasta sauce and then convincing, like, you know, your girlfriend that you're, you know, a 5-star chef. And it's just random stuff like that. And it's just like guys understanding guy stuff.
Yeah. Your dad launching you into space while inner tubing.
Yeah. Just different stuff like that. And that's the thing is I think that's where a lot of people lack the kind of inauthentic, the inauthenticity with everything that they're doing. It's like nobody cares. Nobody's going to be moody about shit that you do or say. Like what's funny as hell is like, you know, guys are friends with each other if they say the worst shit ever to them.
Totally.
Like there's group chats with us in it where it's like all my black friends, Asian friends, Mexican friends, and all of us will send the most racist and horrible shit to each other all day long.
100%.
Yeah, we greet each other by calling each other faggots.
Yeah. And it's just like, that's how you know your guys.
Yeah, that's how we know we like each other.
That's how exactly. Where it's like one of my friends posted something. It was this black dude. He was blindfolded and then he was just like, all right, we're going to do a fried chicken taste test and everything. And then when the first 3 seconds, like a smoke alarm went off, it was like beeping.
The beep.
Yep. And I sent it to like our friend and I was like, did you hear that? He was like, what? And I was like, dude, I'm like, you guys just got to be like playing around at this point.
Yeah, I feel like they're trolling us. Every black person is trolling us with the smoke alarm.
But that's it. And people want like the authenticity. And that's why a lot of people are they're just afraid to do it. And I tell people like, dude, nobody cares. Like the average person thinks that stuff's funny. Like that's why there's the joke nowadays of like, you found it racist. I thought it was funny. That's why I'm happier than you.
That's so true.
And that's why like people just in general are very kind of weird about everything. I'm like, dude, just say it. And so I'm not saying like overright, do really, really bad or horrendous shit, but like, I don't know, just don't be so uptight all the time. And that's why a lot of people too, like they're depressed and they're looking for different outlets of stuff. I'm like, dude, like go exercise, like go get sunlight, go hang out with friends, go do whatever. That's not the end all be all. Like there's kind of a lot of cringe stuff for a lot of guys. Will be like, you know, I use the gym as my way to help fully my mental health. I'm like, all right, well, that's not good either. It's like, let's say you break your leg, like you're fucked then. You're probably off yourself, but like find other outlets in life too, that ways you can help yourself, not just like physically and mentally, but like spiritually as well. I'm not saying you got to go to church, you got to do whatever, but like whatever you can do to bring balance to everything else you have going on in life. So a lot of people use the gym as their sole way to like decompress. I'm like, dude, find other ways. Like, I don't know if you like video games, play an hour of video games, or like skateboarding, if you're like building computers, or I know a lot more dudes now than ever that are really into Lego sets.
Yeah.
Like if you like doing that stuff,
bigger, dude.
like if you like that stuff, go. I think it's also they have adult money, so you can just buy shit that they want now, which is really cool to see, like what people buy with their adult money. For me, like I don't really spend too much money of my own. I'm very fortunate. I can get a lot of stuff for free. Like it's like I don't pay for supplements. I don't pay for clothes. I don't pay for. Like for me, it's like I'll buy, you know, medical stuff or whatever stuff for my house or my dog. But like, no, he doesn't use dog toys. He just we go to HEB and I think the best dog thing I've ever bought is like if you go in the frozen section. Some HEBs have it, some don't. And like the frozen meat section, just like where all the freezer stuff is, not like the meat section where like all the beef is. They'll have like raw bone marrow, just frozen little bones. It's like
better dog toy than anything.
It's like
you
$8,
can get
and they'll have like 6 or 7.
That's amazing.
Cut up real bone marrow. That's all my dog does. Like my dog is weird. I've been feeding him a raw diet since he was a puppy. Just like raw beef, or I'll cook it sometimes, or just give him different stuff with like sometimes like carrots or celery. I'll give him eggs and bone broth and all this different stuff. That's all he wants to eat. He won't even eat peanut butter or anything like that. Nice. Like if I were to try to give him any stuff that I guess every other dog would want, he's just not interested in it.
Crazy. Which dog shouldn't be. Yeah. Just like feeding your kid from birth a bunch of bullshit. If you don't feed them, they're not going to crave it later in life.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I know some people who are, I think they're called like the almond moms.
Almond moms?
I think that's what they're called. Where they're basically like that. They're like, oh, everything in this house is sugar-free. Like if we're going to eat cookies, I'm going to make them from home or scratch or whatever. Dude, if your kids want some ice cream, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just don't, you know, raise them to be super fat. Like get them in the sports, get them running.
Yeah. Don't feed them sugar for breakfast and make sure they burn off their calories.
Yeah, essentially. And it's like, I don't know, kids don't even sweat really. When they're like 6, 7 years old, just kind of, I don't understand how that works. Like they don't get like super sweaty.
That's a good point. I've never really thought about that. Like, maybe I don't.
But like they don't
watch kids.
They don't.
But like,
they don't really stink. They don't really sweat too much.
I think kids stink.
Oh, it's like it can be like the gear and stuff. Like I grew up playing hockey for a little bit. Hockey gear, like football gear and everything reeks. But like,
well, especially when their hormones start to kick on. They
exactly.
Have like
teenagers stink.
Yeah,
motherfucker.
Yeah, they have
but it's like you see like a 5-year-old kid who just finished football. He's not going to be like a super stinky kid or anything.
That's a good point.
No, not at all.
But I think that's
a lot of kids, Brent. I know Brent smells a lot of kids. We should talk about that.
Okay.
No, so there's
on my Patreon.
There's a funny journalist. His name was Luke Rutkowski. He's like a hardcore like libertarian kind of dude. Like he's friends with Alex Jones. And it's funny because like right after the Epstein stuff, he went to the Bahamas and they rented like a jet ski or a boat, and he filmed walking around Epstein's island. So like went around security. So whenever he's on other podcasts, people love to bring up. He's like, "Oh, yeah, you went to Epstein's island." He's like, "After it got raided."
Let me just make this real clear.
But it's kind of
there were no kids on that island by the time I got there.
And that's the thing is, I feel bad for a lot of these kids because like, thankfully, my parents were just, I don't know. My mom was kind of someone who was like, no fatties. Like she was always like, you're going to be in sports, you're going to do this. And then it's like, we would have stuff in the house. Like my mom was always someone who was like, yo, have friends over, do whatever. Like if you guys want food, we'll get you whatever you want. It's like you're in middle school, high school. You're not going to get fat from eating pizza every now and then or whatever. She's like, you're going to play sports, you're going to go to the gym. And I feel bad for all these kids that don't have the kind of, because like that's where life's going to suck for them. Yeah. They were never around it. They've never seen healthy food. And I think that's why a lot of people nowadays, and that goes back to earlier in discussion where like a lot of older people are kind of bitter. So see a lot of these kids who are 170 pounds, and I'm friends with a lot of them who will be like, hey, here's beginner kind of ways to like track your calories or know how you're doing this, or just very basic kind of stuff. And a lot of people will be like, I can't believe people don't know how to do that. And I'm like, you're in a bubble. That's why America's so overweight. And a lot of people will say too, it's like, damn, dude, I can't lose weight. I mean, 500 calories a day. It's just they don't know how to track calories. They don't know what they're doing. And it's like very few people obviously have the limiting health factors as well, whether it's pre-existing conditions or whatever. But it's like there are all these factors, and that's why there's a larger audience for fitness than just the bodybuilding fitness industry. Was like what you were saying, like pre-podcast, it's very close knit, at least and it is kind of close knit, is because it's more, you have to gain the respect from it. But there's all these different branches of fitness and health in general, and people don't even realize that. It's not just like, oh, if you're not sponsored by this company or whatever, you're not someone that can or shouldn't make content talking about health or wellness or anything. I think that's something a lot of people don't get. Like, I have friends of mine who, there's a guy I know, he made like 350 grand last year because he just posted cooking content, or he'd be like, hey, here's a healthier version of this. It's like, if you want, chicken Alfredo pasta, here's how you make a healthier version of it. That's like higher in protein. And your average person who just goes to the gym every now and then and is like, damn, I like food, but they can make it a little bit healthy. It's like, there's audiences for all of that, and people don't get it. And so a lot of these kids, they grow up because they were never around this kind of stuff. That's why they're fucked. And that's why they're seeking out that kind of stuff, because I'm too hardcore for them. I don't resonate. I don't speak to them at all, because they just assume, oh, he's on 10 grams of gear. He's doing this. He's doing that. I'm not someone that resonates with them at all.
You're not their avatar.
Exactly. They're just like, dude, I just kind of want to lose weight. And like, if I have a girl over, I don't want to be, feel like shit if I get naked in front of her, if I go to the beach or whatever. So that's why there's all these crazy different outlets and stuff too. And that's why it kind of goes into there's a part of bodybuilding. There's some people who try to like, because there's the topic, a lot of people say like, oh, if you take a lot of gear, you're going to have a bunch of women, you're going to have girls, you're going to have daughters. That's kind of a trope that a lot of people talk about.
Or high testosterone levels. Naturally, you have tons of girls.
Yeah. And what's funny is that there are groups of people that I know that will basically be like, all right, well, I'm going to do all these different cycles, because you can theoretically pass down your genes from one generation to another. So like you can change your genes very quickly. Mm-hmm. So there's people I know that will do very, very high androgens. They're like, all right, I want to have a kid. So they'll take crazy cycles of stuff. And it's the same thing too.
So
a lot of people
comes out jacked.
Yep. Because it can kind of change the genetics. Same thing too with the women. They'll do cycles of Anavar, stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff too. Like a lot of people think you take testosterone the first time, you're, one time or whatever, your fertility is going to be done. And same thing like with hair. It's kind of just genetic. Mm-hmm. There's medications like, gonadorelin or clomiphene or HCG, which is a very popular one to help with fertility. A lot of women can take stuff like this as well. And a lot of people just do have fertility problems in general. I think a lot more women probably because of being on birth control for so long.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would lean it more towards. But
there's all chemicals in the food and water and bottles and everything.
And I tell people too, like,
and having kids older. There's a lot of women just having kids older.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of it too. Instead of a lot of people having kids at 25, 26, now it's like late 30s. It's just normal. And there's guys who will be 80 years old and can pump out kids. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing about it, is you can kind of biohack your body, whether it's doing different, but most people just don't know that this stuff is out there. That's why like there's some bodybuilders who I know, like Ian Valliere, for example, he's cold turkey right now. He was a guy who I think he got 7th at his last Olympia. Really, really big dude. Like he hasn't been on testosterone for I think like 6 months. No HCG, no nothing, cold turkey. His levels are fine. Wow. Everything's good. I don't know about his fertility. I haven't asked him about that. But I mean, he'll just take HCG when he wants to have a kid. Like, I mean, people see it all the time. Most of the bodybuilders, they end up having kids, especially while they're competing too. There's some people who take it. Their fertility will go to 0. It's just kind of person dependent on every single thing that you do.
It's super dependent. Aren't you in the process of getting ready for a show now?
So I'm kind of just, I do whatever I'm told to do. So we're still in the off season.
Oh, really?
I'm kind of just chilling at the moment. I'm just trying to kind of slim down a tiny bit.
Okay.
Not anything crazy. So I'd compete around 200 pounds. I'm still like 35, 40 pounds over stage weight. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of just like, we'll kind of recomp. I'm going to get blood work soon and then go from there and be like, okay, do we up the gear? What do we do with this? What do we do with that? And kind of just figure out the plan from there.
Is that how you decide to kind of cycle down?
A little bit, because it's more just like, how is your body responding to stuff? Like, for example, I'm on a compound right now called equipoise or EQ. And some people's hematocrit gets super, super high. And there's an argument whether or not you should donate blood or not if you're on EQ. Some people need to, some people don't. A lot of people overly worry about, I'm blanking on the exact term right now, because it can mess up something within your body.
Donating blood or just having high hematocrit?
Obviously having high hematocrit, but also donating blood as well. I forget the name of the hormone in your body that it can mess up. But it can potentially mess that up. But basically a blood dump can benefit some people, and even just everyday people as well.
I was told by my doctor, like, it's okay to just do it twice a year. It's just maintenance.
Which is, don't do it every month. Don't do it this or that.
Yeah, I don't think they'll let you do it every month.
I overdid it, and she's like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Even though I think my hematocrit was high, she's like, stop doing that. Yeah. You're starting to kill your iron and a couple other things. I can't remember.
Yeah. And there's a misconception too that, like, well, if you take steroids, they like don't go in and go donate it. Like, I don't know. I've been told them I was doing it. If you're in Texas area or Houston, go to Gulf Coast Blood Center. They don't care, because like they'll either just throw the blood out or donate it or give it to somebody. I got a text like 4 months ago, the blood I donated, because they like go through it for like 12 weeks to like filter it and test it. Mm-hmm. Mine was used for somebody, donated it. Yeah. And the thing they worry about the most is like whether or not you are gay, because I think they want to know if you have like possibly HIV or not.
Yeah, they're looking at diseases.
That's what they're looking at. They're looking at
it's the needle use is what they're concerned about.
Like other kind of drug use. But
we're not sharing
heroin or
needles.
Yeah, or they were overly asked. They were asking a lot about the COVID vaccine as well. When I went in there, the COVID vaccine, they were asking a lot, which I never got. Yeah. Because for me, I didn't have to, but I was also sitting here.
Funny that they told us all to take it. Now they're concerned about it. Weird how that works.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't really see a need to it. I'm very healthy. I don't need it. I don't have any. I rarely ever get sick, if ever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm fine. I don't need it.
I didn't take it either.
It's called common sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even want to do that. I'm just like, it's like, look, I don't like being, and it's a lot of people go down the route of like, I don't want to be, because like there was this girl I was dating at the time, and this would be 2022. So like a lot of places were because like the COVID vaccines came out like end of December 2020. Most of the time it was like 2021 and mid 2022 people were really taking it. And we went to Chicago, and I was explaining to her like, hey, they're going to be very crazy about this kind of stuff. And I had a friend of mine whose cousin worked at a pharmacy. So he just wrote me a card. He got me a vaccine card. He just put in that I got 4 shots. And I was trying to explain to her, because she only had 1 shot. I was like, yo, in Chicago, I'm like, just fill out the second one. She got the first one because she was worried about her mom, because her mom had cancer. So she was like, I don't want to like, I was like, she's not a political person, so I'm not going to be like, you're stupid if you do this or that. She just wanted to do it. And like, it was a real shock to her. They wouldn't let her in the Starbucks.
Because she only had 1.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I was trying to explain to her, and she was just like, she didn't believe me that I was like, that they were like in certain places, they were this kind of crazy.
Where did you guys live at the time?
Cincinnati.
Okay. And they were a little more
Ohio. And that's one thing. Ohio is a very conservative state.
Yeah.
Just because very business friendly. Like most companies, like a lot of people wonder like, what's there to do in Ohio? I'm like, dude, Ohio's like the 6th or 7th largest state. And I'm like, do you think like Columbus is so big, and then everybody knows Cleveland and Cincinnati? I'm like, dude, there's a lot of money in Ohio, especially most companies, their Midwestern headquarters is in Columbus, Ohio, or Cincinnati, just because Ohio is very, very business friendly. And Ohio is very cheap to live in because of all the business taxes and everything, but they also very pro-business. So like a lot of the suburbs you'll see like for example, in Cincinnati, you have General Electric and Procter & Gamble and all these other big companies. In Columbus, Ohio, you have Nationwide, you have some of the top healthcare companies, just all this crazy stuff you could ever think, like Wendy's. Most companies, when they want to do a trial restaurant, they'll put it in Columbus, Ohio, because Ohio, specifically Columbus, fits like the demographics for the United States the most. Like if the United States is like 72% white, Columbus is like 72% white on the dot, It's like 13% black, which fits national averages. It's like, it's pretty close.
It's like a little microcosm of the
So
US.
basically they'll think if I put a restaurant in Columbus, Ohio, most of the time when they're expanding for the first time, they'll be like, how does it do here? Because it fits the demographics really well. That's why like a funny example is a restaurant like Cane's, like Raising Cane's. Because obviously it's from like Louisiana State, like it's from LSU. And I sit here and I'm like, dude, they've had Cane's. It's like 7 years old in Columbus, all over the place. Because I think a lot of people figured out like Columbus, Ohio is the place to put your business. And it's funny because it was like, I remember it got super popular, probably like 2012. Like it was in Columbus. I remember it. It was in Columbus. It wasn't really as popular though. People go to it, but I think they went through like a whole rebranding of everything. So that's the kind of the weird thing. And then obviously you have like the Arnold and everything. That's why like people in Texas, people think of like high school football as like high school football. Like that's in Texas. Like everyone plays high school football. In Ohio, it's like when you stop lifting sports in high school or college, you get really interested in bodybuilding.
And they got West Side.
Or powerlifting, yeah. Powerlifting especially too, just because of West Side. And there's a ton of other crazy gyms in Ohio. I got just all over the place. Not as much in Cleveland, but in Cincinnati and Columbus, like there's tons of crazy stuff. Like the gyms, like the quality of a lot of like old school kind of places too, which are very rare to see nowadays. And it's like some of the old school powerlifting gyms that were down there, especially in Columbus and Cincinnati, you just go into the locker room and you just open drawers of sinks. There'd just be full, pre-drawn shots in there. And people just pull them and inject them and they go work out. I'm like crazy stuff.
That's awesome.
And I never do anything like that because I'm sitting there. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. People just do it. I'm assuming they just pre-draw and then just leave it there.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the clinic you work with.
Yeah.
People interested in working with them.
Yeah.
How it works.
So one thing that's really cool, I think a lot of guys are at least have heard of a company called Hims nowadays, mainly for like the hair kind of stuff. So the cool thing about our clinic, it's called algo.rx. If you use code Elec, you'll save money. I don't like to overly plug shit that I do. Cool thing about it is, one, we'll talk about the blood work side too. The reason a lot of guys don't get blood work is because they have to go to a doctor and their doctor's being a dick about whether or not you can order blood work or not. With our clinic, you basically go on the website. You can build your own panel. Whatever you want to add, you can. But we have panels as cheap as like $100. You could add stuff on top of it, like a la carte if you want, and you just buy it. And then you basically just get an email and you schedule a visit to LabCorp, where there's 10,000 LabCorps in every city. Obviously, it's hyperbolic, but there's a LabCorp every 3 to 4 miles. And then you just go get your blood work. You go draw it. And then you can get it 5 to 7 business days. And then you can go from there, whether or not you like use our clinic or not. But like that's the cool thing. You don't have to go through a doctor. It's just in our system and everything's telehealth. So then when you go to our clinic aspect of it, you can get prescribed right now, whether it's things like glutathione or Cialis, telmisartan. You can go things like ezetimibe. You can get L-carnitine, which is a popular one. You can get sildenafil, which is Viagra for a lot of things. So a lot of people don't know even Cialis and Viagra are very different. I think a lot of people just assume it's the same thing. Viagra is like, if you're going to fuck, like you take Viagra. Cialis, there's all the other benefits to it. Like I tell guys in general, most people, guys or girls, will benefit from Cialis, day-to-day use. 5 mgs, whatever dosage you want to do.
It's like daily or pre-workout or?
Daily or pre-workout. I just tell people pre-workout if that's easier for you, or morning or whatever you want to do. Yeah. Blood pressure regulation, pulmonary tension, especially guys, prostate health. Also, if you're genetically prone to Alzheimer's, which I know there's kind of the argument of whether or not Alzheimer's is linked to diabetes or not, potentially, it can have up to like a 44% reduction in some studies.
Wow.
So I'm someone who I'm like, there's just more benefits to it. And that's why like when I talk on social media, I'm like, here's all the other benefits of stuff that people are not mentioning, like especially pulmonary tension. Like if you take gear, like I would recommend, Cialis every day, whatever dose you want to do. It's trial and error with your body. Also get your blood work. But the cool thing is like with the clinic, if you want these prescriptions, you basically just buy it, you add it to the cart, and when you go to check out, there's like a questionnaire basically. And obviously like if you have stuff, it's easy. For me, it's easier. My blood work's already in it. Plus the doctors are just like, I get doctors to write me a script for whatever I want. And I'll be like, hey, can you prescribe me this at this dose? I'll be like, cool. Yep. So and you go in, you do the questionnaire. It's like 3 minutes at most per medication. And then you check out, you buy it. Code Elec will save you money too on everything. And then you just shows up at your door in a couple of days.
What kind of stuff do they have?
I got a full list. We kind of break it down into like different spectrums of stuff. We have like the cardiovascular health. We have the everything. So it's kind of cool. I'll show you here. It'll be like take control of your health journey.
Yeah, I'm curious about like the anabolics and.
So very, very soon we're going to be adding TRT and other stuff that takes a long time. It took us a while to even get the clinic fully set up just for blood work, because certain states like New Jersey and New York, if you live there, it's a pain in the ass to get blood work in general. Most people, if they live in, for example, Jersey, but they're closer to Philly, they'll just go over to Pennsylvania, get blood work. Or vice versa. If you're in New York, you'll go over to Connecticut. So we got like the pharmacy. I'm trying to read this upside down. Performance optimization. You got enclomiphene, L-carn, tadalafil. You've got the weight management. We got semaglutide. I think pretty soon we'll have retatrutide as well, which is like a derivative of it. We'll have like aromacin and more. I'm trying to read this upside down.
You could read it from your phone.
I'm just trying to show you guys too. We got like metformin. We've got, all these different kind of stuff. We got ancillaries, talmazartan. I'm actually just going to read it. I'm turning it back. Zetamine. We're going to do some hair care stuff soon and some skin stuff. I imagine our skin care stuff will just be probably BPC or GHK kind of mixed in with other stuff. And we got the longevity, like the glutathione and all this stuff. So it's very smaller at the moment. Like eventually at some point we are going to add TRT and other kinds of stuff to it, just not at the moment. It just takes a while to get those licensing.
For sure.
Because for us, we're not dealing with insurance, which I know sucks for some people, but we're not doing the whole thing where we'll charge you, like for example, another clinic, I don't want to say the name, they'll charge you, like for example, if you do like HCG and enclomiphene, they'll charge you $900 for it. Where for us, we don't want to sell you on a prescription, we want to sell you on the vial.
Yeah.
So if you buy a vial of testosterone, we're selling you a vial of testosterone from a compound in the US that just gets delivered to you. So we're not doing the whole prescription service kind of stuff, because there's a lot of people, and the reason a lot of people, for example, will use our research company, which is called Research Chem or researchem.is, is because a lot of people will do the right thing. They'll go to a clinic. Like there's a guy I know in Houston who originally, that's how him and I became friends. He's like 35. He owns a car dealership, very busy all the time. And he was like, I think my test is low. So he went to a clinic. Blood work came back. It was like 350, which a lot of people don't know. Like a lot of clinics, for example, in general, your testosterone, a lot of FDA regulations has to be below like 280 to get prescribed testosterone, which is chronically low. Yeah. So they'll say you're in range if you're between like 300 to 900, which for those of you who don't know, 900 is very high up, especially naturally. Yeah. Just like top end, like you're going to just be feeling good. You're going to feel healthy, sleep, mental health, everything. Now, some people that they might not feel great mentally, physically. It just depends on the person. It's just considered within range. So that's why, he was talking to me and it was like, hey, yeah, they gave me they didn't give him enclomiphene, they gave him Clomid. I'm like, they're kind of cheapening out on you. Like they're giving you like a cheaper version of something. If you're going to a clinic, you're paying a couple $100 a month. He's paying like $400 a month. And I was like, here, take this. Like I get enclomiphene from our research company. I'm like, here's $80 a vial. And he's just like, really? I'm like, yeah, just buy the product, don't buy the service. And that's what we were trying to do with like our clinic, is we wanted to just make it more direct to consumer, not a subscription kind of thing. It's like you get blood work whenever you want it, but you can select the blood work that you're getting. You don't have to deal with the doctors or insurance, but you're buying the product. You're not buying all the other stuff on top of it. It's like, for example, nowadays, like if you want, let's say like Hulu, and that comes with like ESPN Plus or whatever. I was like, fuck yeah, I can watch some college football or other stuff. But then they're like, oh, well, to get, or for a good example is I tried to watch Yellowstone the other day, and I figured out, like, so I had Hulu and HBO and ESPN, because they're all together. I was like, it's like $20 a month. I was like, fuck, if I want to watch Yellowstone, I got to pay $90 a month. It's like same thing, like all the TV providers back in the day. But like, oh, if you want this channel, you got to pay $150.
You.
And that's what a lot of these clinics are kind of doing. And for us, it's like, let's just make it easier on you. If you want a medication, you just make the medication. Like you buy it. And that's why a lot of people use our research website too, because a lot of these peptides, like for example, like BPC 157 used to be FDA approved and now they're not anymore. And so that's why a lot of people use the research website for some stuff and the other stuff too. It's like whether you want like telmisartan or semaglutide or all this stuff, like we sell all this on the research site, and obviously it's research purposes. That's how it is. That's why there's, you know, I'm not going to say the loophole or anything, but that's why there's some of the research websites get shut down, is because with us, it's mainly droppers and stuff or powders. So it's not dosed out things, because you can't argue research purposes. Because like we've had other lab companies or like medical centers or like testing centers at universities order from our research site before. Because they'll test stuff. They'll do different kinds of experiments with stuff. And if you make the pills of stuff, that's where the FDA gets kind of weird about stuff. Yeah. And so I tell people, like, because it's not like this is new. Like none of these compounds are new. It's just a matter of like people are just finding out about them. So they're very, I don't say suspicious of it, but it's like, this stuff is safe. Like everything we do, especially the research site, goes through Janoschik, most rigorous third-party testing in the world. Everything obviously from the clinic, compound pharmacy in the US. So everything is safe. It's just people will find ways to like demonize crazy different things or hear about very negative side effects of stuff. But I'm very honest about stuff with people. Like a lot of people talk about like what we brought up earlier, like melanotan. Some studies will show that melanotan can like increase your chance of skin cancer. And I'm like, well, some people are going to get skin cancer, some won't. But it's like, if it is increasing your melanin production in your body, are you really increasing your chance of getting skin cancer? That's my question to it.
Or are the people taking it now, being in the sun more often, thinking that they're more tan and they're getting skin cancer?
Exactly. And there are certain compounds too, like melanotan will give you like a visible, you'll get like more moles on your body or more freckles.
Yeah.
Which, and it just depends on who you talk to, is like, you're doing this or that. And that's why the argument, for example, about sunscreen, I've never worn sunscreen a day in my life. And I'll get people be like, well, your aunt who married into the family, her dad got skin cancer. Like, I'm not genetically related to her in any aspect whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing too. Like, I just get tan every summer. I never burn. I never do this. I hydrate
never
my body.
Never a big sunscreen guy until tattoos, because it will fade them. So
yeah.
I'll sunscreen tattoos, but.
And I think that they've been doing some new studies too about tattoos, about how they can cause some potential, I'm not going to say cancer, but
oh, it's ink like in your body. I'm sure it's not good for you.
Yeah,
not natural for sure.
And for me, like I'm just not really a tattoo person. I don't know what I would get, but I know a lot of people who are, and
most professional bodybuilders don't, right?
Yeah, because it can kind of fuck you over. Yeah. In competing wise, some people they'll get
it doesn't look very good.
They'll get like forearm sleeves. So they won't do like too much because it hides your physique.
Totally.
Like for example, if you were to get like a back tattoo on all of your back,
yeah, you wouldn't be able to see the fine
good
details.
Luck. You just good luck.
The grain,
high competitive. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. That's why, because bodybuilding is essentially like, you know, I tell people, we joke about it. It's like the most no homo thing ever. You know, because obviously you're getting. You know, you're in little shorts
getting
for
lubed up in spandex for your bros.
Yeah. But it's like there's an art to it. I think that's something that a lot of people don't get. As I tell people all the time, like go to a bodybuilding show, they'll be surprised like how graceful a lot of the stuff is with like the individual posing routines and everything. And it's funny. It's just the most no homo thing of all time, which people just don't get.
It's the most masculine and the most gay thing you can do.
Exactly. But it's just a matter of like people love it. Yeah. It's just what it is. And you have a lot of people who are more interested in it than you think. But overall, it's fun, especially just like, I think a lot of people too, just like the weightlifting aspect of it, like improving your health, like physically seeing the changes. That's why like, I don't really think there's anything better than seeing your body grow and get bigger and obviously doing, you know, not overly abusing stuff, not overly doing really stupid stuff, not hurting yourself, but I think it's a very self-rewarding thing because you can't really fake it. So a lot of people say, well, it's like, it's, you know, if you take gear, I'm not gonna say faking it, but they're like, it's not the same as if you did it naturally. But it's very different perception wise, like than like girls who get BBLs and stuff, or it's just very different how it looks like cosmetically as well. So there are people who you probably heard of a compound called synthol.
Yep.
People will use that, like other site enhancement oils. It's not as bad as it used to be, but people will use it. For example, let's say you tear your bicep a couple weeks out before the Olympia, they'll use it a little bit just to kind of create balance, like in your biceps, like if you're doing a front double or posing.
Yeah.
So people like to use this stuff. You can use it to your advantage because it's not illegal to use in bodybuilding. It's a beauty pageant.
Damn, Elec, thanks so much for taking your time out of your day to be here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, you're a wealth of knowledge, man.
It's just a matter of I had good mentors, and that's one thing I try to tell people is like talk to people. Like it's, you know, you can read a million books, you can do whatever, can learn from anybody at the same time. Like, and that's one thing too. Is I think it's why there's like the kind of discussion about like, are you like, you know, you can study economics, you can study entrepreneurship in school. Until you go out there and you work for somebody or you're doing your own stuff, it's a completely different game.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can have a kind of perspective of like what you need to be doing, but it's like, has somebody built businesses before? Has somebody done that?
Yep.
And that's why I just tell people, like, you know, if you're doing the bodybuilding, you're doing the fitness stuff, see what works for you. If you're still, and I think that's the thing too, is like people overly worry about, are they making enough growth? And it's like, all right, you know, and it's one thing I deal a lot with clients. Like, hey, I'm not sure I'm losing weight fast enough. I'm like, are you losing weight? Yes. You feel good? Yeah. How are your hormones? Good. I just got blood work. It's good. Your sleep good? Yeah. You bloated? No. You go to the gym, you have good workouts? Yeah. Okay. It's working. Don't overthink it. Don't overly like rely on the, you know, the early gratification of stuff. You know, people want it now. And I think that's something a lot of people don't think about.
Anything worth having is going to take that time.
It takes time.
Getting big or leaning out.
Yeah, building a business, it takes way longer than you think. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, people they're impatient. That's just how my generation is, though. I just want to know.
I think also you just get fed with such social media stuff all the time. It bombards people's brains, puts them in overdrive, and then they get anxious and they're like, I need to be here now. You'll
see a 21-year-old, you're sitting in your college econ class as a sophomore or junior, you'll see a kid renting a Lamborghini who visits Miami for a week, just makes all this content being like, buy my course, I made $100,000 this month doing this. You're like, fuck, I wish I was 21, going to 11 in Miami every night, driving a Lambo. Like, it's not real.
That's why I think sometimes it's good, if I had advice, it's good to find people who have experience, who've done it, and just train with them or train under them and just put all blinders on for a while, a year, or two, gather as much information and understanding, then maybe move to somebody else with a lot of experience. Don't try to listen to everybody all the time and do all the shit.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why a bunch of people used to give Elon Musk shit about years ago. Elon Musk has only been really good about it the last year or two, where Elon would try to dip his hands in 10 different things at a time, and you have kind of moving very slowly and progressing instead of, if you focus out on one or two things, can go way faster. You kind of get this ability where it's maintainable very easily. You move on to the next thing where you can start adding other stuff onto your plate, which is something a lot of people don't think about. And that goes to any aspect in life, whether you're on social media or bodybuilding, you're doing anything. It's like, let's say you're a dad, you have work, you have a wife, you have kids, you have all this stuff going on. How do you deal with work and being a dad first? And then once that's maintainable to the point where it's not as much of a stressor, obviously you're very present as a father and you're doing stuff you got to do work-wise and everything. How do you add the gym in from there? And then how do you add in the diet from there? And that's the problem, is a lot of people are just think like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym, I'm going to start dieting. They'll start slacking off in all these other areas. It's like, be a good dad, be a good husband, focus on work, do that stuff first. Like, I work from home. I do coaching. I have sponsors. It's a little bit easier for me. I don't have to meal prep food. If I want food, I make it. I go to the gym when I need to do it. But I'm very fortunate, and that's what I understand. That's why I'm not hard on these guys that do this. And I think the thing too is, like, for me, because I coach a lot of these guys. So most of the guys I coach are natural guys who have day jobs. They're just like, hey, I want to work out 4 or 5 days a week. I just want to look good. When I'm naked in front of my wife, or when I go to the beach, I don't want people to think I'm fat. I don't want to get, I don't want to take steroids. I don't want to do this or that. That's most of the guys I coach. And then obviously I coach, enhanced guys who do this or that. I'm like, all right, let's deal with all this or all that. And most people just assume that everybody wants to be the enhanced, jacked bodybuilder guy. The average dude just wants to have a peaceful life. He feels comfy, wants to have a good job, wants to be a good husband, a good father. I don't know, have free time, get drunk with his friends on the weekend every now and then. I'm not going to shit on that guy because doesn't think about fitness or the gym the same way I do. But that's just understanding like nuance in life and understanding people have different priorities.
Totally. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming. Where can people find you? What's the best place to contact you if they want to work with you?
Probably just my social media, just Elec Eisenson. I don't know if you can like type it on the screen or whatever.
We'll put it on the...
Don't worry, we got it.
We got it, buddy.
And then...
it'll be in the notes.
Yeah, all my sponsors are on there. I try to respond to many DMs as I get to. If people do ask me, like I don't get bothered if people DM me and they're like, hey, because a lot of people assume they're asking really stupid questions and they're very apologetic about it. Like, hey, dude, I'm going to be honest. I don't really know how to track calories. I'm not just going to be like, dude, you're a retard. Like, stop. Like, I'm like, all right, here, let me help you do it.
Because there are a lot of guys online, I'll say, that respond in the comments like dicks.
And I do that every now and then.
Well, some people need it.
Yeah.
Some people need it.
But it's more just a matter of like being brutally honest with people. Like, but it's like you can try to do most things without being a dick. But I mean, don't be a pushover. Like, you got to have in life, you got to be a dick sometimes. But like, I got coaching app in the bio. If you want to work with me, I don't know, I'm not crazy expensive. I don't like to charge a ton of money. Normally it's between like $250 to $300 a month. Which, a lot of people sounds crazy, but I help you with your hormone health. I do, diet, nutrition, supplements, everything. You talk to me whenever you want. There's a lot of coaches out there that only communicate with people once a week for check-ins. I'm like, that's nuts, dude. I do discounts for people who are in school, people who are veterans, first responders, cops, everybody. I do discounts for all them as well. So, and stuff too. I just try to be workable for everybody. That's it. And then, I don't know, go get your blood work though. Just like do it because like it lets you know what's going on. I think a lot of guys are afraid to do it because they don't want to see that they're actually unhealthy. Yeah. Because you can fix it. If you know what's going on in your life, you can fix it. You can make it better. Just don't keep prolonging it. Like if your quality of life sucks now, you feel like shit, why wait? Like keep putting it off. Better to get the hard reality and get hit over the head with it and make the changes you need to now.
True.
But yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah,
dude,
of course,
it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elec.